Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson, and this is The Drive for the 16th day of February. It is a Thursday, and we got a lot going on here today. There was finally, the leader of the free world decided he would address us, deign to address the nation, to explain what the hell was going on with all those balloons. But we also have a local story here in that we very much need to keep an eye on the weather. So one eye on the news, one eye on the weather. Mac Morey in the newsroom, can you bring us up to date on where we are right now?
Yeah, Brian. So right now, no tornado warnings in the mid-state. Tornado watch, though, for all of Middle Tennessee. That'll last until tonight around 7 p.m. Davidson County just got put into a severe thunderstorm warning until 3:30 today. Severe thunderstorm is located near Belmead, and it's moving east at around 40 miles an hour. With that will come 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So,
wow.
yeah. Tonight we're monitoring lots and lots of rain paired with wind, a cold front, and that's going to be going on for the next few hours.
All right, so Belmead, buckle up because you've got a real severe storm coming your way right now. Davidson County, a thunderstorm warning. The rest are watches, and we'll keep an eye on it as we go forward. Thank you very much for that, Mac. The President of the United States did come out this afternoon after days and days and days in which people said, when will the President, when will he address the nation, when will he talk to us about whatever it is that these balloons are? And he finally came out this afternoon and made a statement, took no questions. How do I put this? I think I was right. I think I had this nailed. I'm not going to brag, but I think I had this pretty much nailed. Several days ago, I told you, look, you need to look at the Chinese spy balloon as one thing, and then the other things that they shot down as something else completely. Because as you remember, I explained to you Wilson's first law of government, which continually, time after time after time, gets reproven and reproven. Government does not act. Government reacts. When something happens and people want to know, well, what are you going to do about this thing that happened? Government reacts. And then generally when they're in the process of reacting, they almost often, they overreact. That's what has happened here. Chinese spy balloon flies across the nation. People are upset. They get angry. They want to know, what are you going to do about it? Why didn't you shoot that thing down? Why is this spy balloon flying over the country? Well, the people are angry. The people are angry. So let's go shoot down a bunch of sky trash. Here is the president today describing, the other three, not the Chinese balloon, but the other three shoot downs, which he says, if you listen carefully, really may not be much.
They tracked three unidentified objects, one in Alaska, Canada, and over Lake Huron in the Midwest. They acted in accordance with established parameters for determining how to deal with unidentified aerial objects in U.S. airspace. At their recommendation, I gave the order to take down these three objects due to hazards to civilian commercial air traffic and because we could not rule out the surveillance risk of sensitive facilities. Our intelligence committee is still assessing all three incidences. They're reporting to me daily and will continue their urgent efforts to do so, and I will communicate that to the Congress.
All right.
We don't yet know exactly what these three objects were.
Oh, tell me more.
But nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country.
Don't say.
The Intelligence Committee's current assessment is that these three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
Excuse me, that middle
these
one.
Three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions.
What? Recreation or research institutions?
Studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
He continues.
We don't have any evidence that there has been a sudden increase in the number of objects in the sky.
You don't say. No, there's no increase in the number of objects in the sky. It simply had to do with their retweaking of their radar. Well, all of a sudden, son of a gun, we're looking for balloons and we find balloons.
We're now just seeing more of them, partially because the steps we've taken to increase our radars, to narrow our radars.
How about that? If only someone that you know and trust had been willing to give you this kind of readout, a day or two ago. Oh, wait, there was someone. Okay, now look, I'm not bragging. I'm just simply pointing out that when things like this happen, and you read all manner of crap. And you read, well, it's this, it's that, and I mean, the wild, endless speculation. And is it aliens? I mean, people wanted to know, are the aliens, coming? What are these things? And when you finally get down to the brass tacks, and you start to find out what it really was, you should think back as to who got it right and who got it wrong. You see, because if you're buying into the wild speculation and then it turns out to be wrong, well, maybe there's a lesson to be learned from this, that you don't go with the crazy stuff. You go with someone who has a history of getting it right. Okay, that's all I'm saying. I just think that sometimes there's very irresponsible speculation that goes on out there, and you got to have somebody who tries to look at things dispassionately, without a bias to it, to try to tell you, what it is that's going on. So, look, it turns out, at the end of the day, these things may not be much.
The intelligence community's current assessment is that these three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation, or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
I think, Chris, and I'll need you to back me up on this because, I don't want people to think I'm saying things that I didn't say. I think I actually said at one point, I think when this is all said and done, that you're going to find that the United States Air Force spent millions of dollars to send aircraft and like shoot a couple of, $350,000 missiles at something that may well have been made in somebody's garage. Did I say that or did I not say that?
You did on more than one occasion, yes.
I did. All right. I bring to you. I think that Matt Murphy has already shared this story, but I'm gonna take my victory lap here. This is from Aviation Week, globe-trotting balloon declared missing in action by an Illinois-based hobbyist club on February 15th has emerged as a candidate to explain one of the three mystery objects shot down by 4 heat-seeking missiles launched by the Air Force since February 10th. The club is known as the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. Is not pointing fingers yet, but the circumstantial evidence is at least intriguing. The club's silver-coated party-style Pico balloon reported its last position on February 10th at 38,910 feet off the west coast of Alaska, and a popular forecasting tool provided by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration projected the cylindrically shaped object. Do you remember cylindrically shaped? One of them was shaped like a cylinder. The cylindrically shaped object would be flying high over the central part of the Yukon Territory on February 11th. That's the same day an F-22 shot down an unidentified object that was described as being cylindrical at an altitude in the same general area. They're shooting down people's hobby balloons.
Sorry, kids, your balloon is dead.
That's right. I mean, your little balloon got killed. The one you built in your garage that you were so proud of, it got killed by the United States Air Force over Canada. So, and then think about this. We're now still spending millions of dollars to try to recover the wreckage of something that somebody made in their garage. You see, this is what happens every single time with government. Government doesn't act, it reacts, and then when it starts reacting, most of the time, it overreacts. Oh, well, we have a balloon that the Chinese sent to spy on us. Oh, my gosh, the people are upset. We must do something. Well, let's send some F-22s out to shoot down somebody's hobby project, somebody's science project, because that's what these things are likely going to turn out to be. Some of them. The Chinese balloon is still a thing, don't get me wrong. So the Biden administration now says we are going to have to establish some new rules and procedures.
I've directed my team to come back to me with sharper rules for how we will deal with these unidentified objects moving forward, distinguishing between those that are likely to pose safety and security risks that necessitate action and those that do not. But make no mistake, if any object presents a threat to the safety and security of the American people, I will take it down. In addition, I've directed my national security advisor to lead a government-wide effort to make sure we are positioned to deal safely and effectively with the objects in our airspace.
Blue ribbon panel.
First, we will establish a better inventory of unmanned airborne objects in space above the United States airspace and make sure that inventory is accessible and up to date. Second, we'll implement further measures to improve our capacity to detect unmanned objects in our airspace. Third, we'll update the rules and regulations for launching and maintaining unmanned objects in the skies above the United States of America.
Well, hold on a minute. So, I mean, you won't be able to launch that science project anymore if they have their way.
And fourth, my Secretary of State will lead an effort to help establish common global norms in this largely unregulated space. These steps will lead to safer and more secure skies for our air travelers, our military, our scientists, and for people on the ground as well.
All right, so we're going to set some parameters. We're going to set some rules. We're going to make it illegal to launch a balloon. No more projects, science projects coming out of your garage. By the way, I have to share this. This cylindrical balloon that was likely a hobbyist balloon shot down by they launched how many F-22s? The cost of that so-called Pico balloon, $12. Well, if you get a big one, it's $180. But, I mean, they range in price from $12 to $180. It's just, oh, my gosh. How much money did we spend to shoot down a $12 hobbyist balloon? I think that's the story. Why were we just shooting things down willy-nilly? Because I guess we decided that, well, we should show that we can. I mean, how embarrassing is this? It's incredibly embarrassing. Now, there are some things that we need to tell you about the Chinese balloon and where that stands, because that is real, and that is something that there are a lot of questions about. And we'll get to that right after we take a commercial break. It's now 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. All right, some exciting news for you. You know, many of you who've lived in this part of the world for a long time know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee, repairing your European cars for now about 24 years. And you've watched them grow as you grew. Well, I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business like that take off. Now, they are proud to announce a 5th location for Eurofix in Mount Juliet, on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from the Dairy Queen. Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now the new facility in Mount Juliet. It's pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic who started in a barn in the backyard of a single-wide trailer grow to having 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair. Here's the number, 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com.
Monitoring storms coming to the mid-state, and President Biden breaks almost a 2-week silence over the aerial objects flying over the nation, and some news with some Austin Peay State University cheerleading squad. That and more, 3:30 SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
It's 24 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. I'm getting a big giggle out of this about how much money we spent in overreacting to the Chinese balloon. I mean, the Chinese balloon was something that we should have been paying attention to, but these other 3 that were shot down, they're nothing to them. I mean, they're nothing to them. And there's a pretty good case to be made that the one they shot down over the Yukon territory, a U.S. F-22 launched to take it out using a $350,000 radar-based missile, an AIM missile, was nothing more than a hobbyist balloon that cost somewhere between $12 and $180.
I can see the wheels turning in your head.
I'm buying a Pico balloon. I'm buying one. I'm going to order one. I'm going to order it during this show, and I'm going to have it rushed out here to Watertown.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to, before they outlaw the launching of Pico balloons, which it sounds like they're going to do, we're going to launch a Pico balloon.
Just to see how long it takes.
With a bunch of ding stickers or farb stickers all over it.
There you go.
And then we're going to just see where it ends up. And we'll put a note on it. We'll attach a note in a baggie, a sandwich bag. If you find this balloon, please contact us at.
Yeah.
And let's just see where it ends up.
Yeah. And how many pieces it ends up in.
Oh, we're doing this.
That's funny.
I can't wait. All right, but okay, putting that aside for a moment, the Chinese balloon is a more serious thing. How in the world is it, if as we are told, they were watching it from the time that it launched out of Hainan Island in China, and we knew we were tracking it the whole time, how is it that they allowed it to just fly across the country? Here is Biden's sort of explanation of all of that about the Chinese balloon.
When one of these high-altitude surveillance balloons entered our airspace over the continental United States earlier in the month, I gave the order to shoot it down as soon as it would be safe to do so. The military advised against shooting it down over land because of the sheer size of it. It was the size of multiple school buses and it posed a risk to people on the ground if it was shot down where people lived. Instead, we tracked it closely, we analyzed its capabilities, and we learned more about how it operates. And because we knew its path, we were able to protect sensitive sites against collection.
Now, what does he mean by that last part? We were able to protect sensitive sites against detection. Well, I think what they're saying is, no, they didn't jam it. They simply made sure everything was covered up when the balloon flew over. Anything that was sensitive got covered up or hidden or put in a hangar somewhere. And so we knew where it was going. We made sure that when they flew over, there would be nothing for them to see that would be interesting. But as far as active jamming, no. They knew it was coming, and they chose to let it fly over the country, I think a huge mistake, on the idea that, well, we're going to learn something about it. That's what we're going to do.
We waited until it was safely over water, which would not only protect civilians, but also enable us to recover substantial components for further analytics. And then we shot it down, sending a clear message. The violation of our sovereignty is unacceptable. We'll act to protect our country, and we did.
Yeah, okay. I think the way you send that message to the Chinese is that you nail it the moment it gets over United States territory. If it's over the United States, you take it out right then and there. All right? You could have done that over Alaska. You could have done it over territorial waters. There was no reason why you couldn't do it. But they knew, and they were okay with it flying over the country. Just understand that. They were watching it. They knew what it was. They chose not to take it down. And I think then there is something that needs a little bit more explanation. Now we move toward diplomacy.
This episode underscores the importance of maintaining open lines of communication between our diplomats and our military professionals. Our diplomats will be engaging further and I will remain in communication with President Xi. I'm grateful for the work of the last several weeks of our intelligence, diplomatic, and military professionals who have proved once again to be the most capable in the world. And I want to thank you all. Now, look, the other thing I want to point out is that we are going to keep our allies and the Congress contemporaneously informed of all we know and all we learn. And I expect to be speaking with President Xi, and I hope we're going to get to the bottom of this. But I make no apologies for taking down that balloon. Thank you very much.
And then chaos ensued, and reporters were yelling, and he looked like he was going to take a question. Then he just said, you guys are just rude, and he turned around and walked out. And quite frankly, they were being rude. So there you have it. There now, finally, how many days after have we heard now from the President of the United States? And by the way, he didn't mention the train derailment in Ohio. No mention of that at all, which many people thought maybe he would take the opportunity to also mention something about that. This administration is slow to react, and they give us a little bit of information and not much at all. I'm hearing people say that 95% of what they're getting in the classified briefings should not be classified at all. 30 minutes now, past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 69 degrees and rainy, a little stormy. We're monitoring this line of showers that's capable of producing some severe storms, even tornadoes. Right now, just a tornado watch for all of Middle Tennessee until 7 o'clock tonight. Listening to Lisa Spencer on Channel 4, she just said the heaviest of rains have already passed Davidson County and Nashville, have now made their way to LaGuardo, going over to Murfreesboro. High winds, lots of rain, a cold front to go along with the storm, weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away. For the first time, President Joe Biden addressing the public on the 3 unidentified flying objects in the Chinese spy balloon shot down over the U.S. and Canada in recent weeks, making no apologies for his decisions and saying he expects to speak with President Xi, quote, to get to the bottom of this. Luis Martinez at the Pentagon says while the debris recovery is still underway, U.S. officials do not believe the 3 objects were connected to China's spy balloon program.
China has about 200 satellites up in the sky that can survey American military facilities whenever they want to. But this was, I guess, designed to be a program that would kind of fill in the gap, get close-up pictures. But was this actually intentional? That's something that we as ABC and other news outlets are reporting, that it's possible that this balloon actually was never intended to fly over the continental United States, but actually was misdirected by strong winds, and then instead it was supposed to go over Guam and Hawaii, and like previous incidents, and instead it was taken all the way up north to Alaska and then flown over the United States.
Back here in Tennessee with a story at Austin Peay State University, they've suspended their cheerleading team amid alleged violations of the school. The team and staff will not be allowed to represent the Clarksville School or athletics departments in the future while these allegations are still being investigated. That's according to a spokesperson at the university. APSU personnel was made aware of potential violations, and this has all led to the suspension. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let me tell you about the folks over at DT McCall. They're good people. And, when you go there, you're going to find a tremendous selection to choose from. Whether it's appliances, whether it's furniture, whatever it is that you need for your home, you're going to find it at DT McCall's. They have free delivery. How many times have you purchased an appliance, for example, paid extra for the cords and hoses, paid extra for delivery, paid for the old thing to be hauled away? It turns out that original price they gave you, not such a good price at all. At DT McCall's, you get free delivery, free setup, and free haul away. The price that they give you is an accurate price. It's a real price. DT McCall's a family-run company, over 100 years old. You don't make it to be 100 years old without treating people right. And whenever possible, they sell products that were made and manufactured in Middle Tennessee. That's what you want. 5 convenient locations. Find out about all the things they can do for your home by going to their website, dtmccalls.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
It's it's 37 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. I'm just having way too much fun with this story. That a balloon club. They're a bunch of it's the NIBBB. What is it? The Northern Illinois Balloon Brigade or something like that.
Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade. Whatever
there
that
you
means.
go. Yeah, they're pointing out, and this is all being reported in Aviation Week, that they had a balloon that was just off the coast of Alaska. It was cylindrical. It was a cylindrical. It had actually, according to I'm looking at their website now, it apparently had circumnavigated the globe at these altitudes 7 times. Can you believe that? 7 times. And they had one that was off the coast of North Alaska, and then they had it apparently they track this thing. It has a pinger And then, people who have the right radios report, well, it was last, located over northern Alaska. And then the next time it was seen was the winds had taken it over to the Yukon territory, and that's where it was last heard from. Well, that's exactly where the United States Air Force and Canadian forces took out a cylindrical balloon using F-22s and a $350,000 missile, and they got the whole thing here. I mean, it sounds like this is exactly what it was. Unbelievable, and they are the ones responsible for one of these balloon sightings. And so I've got Chris. He's working on it hard behind the scenes. We're going to try to get these people on the phone here during the show. The people from the what is it? The balloon brigade. This is just a riot. They call themselves the NIBBB. We build and launch Pico balloons. And they actually apparently then track them all over the world. Just a hobby is all it is. And these things apparently can circumnavigate the globe a number of times before they give out. So, I've decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to order a Pico balloon before they get outlawed. I'm going to get one, and I'm going to fill it up. I'm going to go down to the flower shop here in Watertown and borrow their helium tank, because they can fill up balloons or maybe just go to the Dollar General and borrow their helium tank. Somebody's got balloons here, helium, and I'm going to fill it up. We're going to stick a bunch of FARB stickers all over it, and we're gonna tie it up with a string, and then I put a sandwich bag at the end of it that has a little card saying, if you find this balloon, please write us. I'm not going to go to all the trouble to put a pinger on it, because I don't know how to track that anyway. And by the way, the cost of these balloons that we spent, a lot of money to shoot down, according to the experts, you can get one for between $12 and $180, depending on what kind of balloon you want to get. It's unbelievable. Now, we're going to do it. So Chris is on it. We'll see how that goes as the day progresses. But I'm telling you, these, and by the way, I'm reading the comments, and you guys are not buying this at all. You just go look at the website. It's NIBBB.org. And look at what they're saying. The story goes on to say, you know what? There were many people who tried to, contact the FBI and say, I know what these things are. You're talking about a cylindrical balloon. These are hobbyist balloons, and they're not a threat at all. And you should, they tried to tell them this so they wouldn't spend all this money to shoot down something that's absolutely harmless. And they said we could get nowhere. Nobody wanted to listen to us. Nobody would take the call. Nobody took us seriously. I don't know what the other two were. We had a Chinese balloon, and then we got these other balloons out there that just were just hobbyist balloons. Sky trash, maybe weather balloons. I don't know, but I guarantee you we're going to spend millions of dollars, and at the end of the day, we're going to find out, as I have predicted, and as the president said today, that they're probably not much. But see, the thing is, everybody said, well, I wanted it to be this. I know that this is not true. This was a biochemical balloon. No, it wasn't any of those things. The Chinese spy balloon was a Chinese spy balloon. The other threes were not. And anybody, if you don't want to believe this, that's fine. But you are not looking at the facts. Look at the facts. And, Jack, and I'll guarantee you, you're going to agree with me. What should we... I wonder how quickly we can get this Pico balloon delivered to the house. I mean, I think I can order this on Amazon Prime. I have it here in a couple days. They won't outlaw balloons in 2 days, will they? I don't think so. Are you with me? Should we launch the balloon? Yes or no? I want to know. Send us a text to the text line.
I'm all for it, personally. I think you need to do it.
What are you finding out? Anything?
Well, I've reached out to...
we're having weather?
Weather warning took over.
Okay. So when we have these weather alerts...
I can't hear you.
Yeah. what I was going to say is when we have these weather alerts, we have to pause.
I can't hear you.
A bad thunderstorm. It looks like it's what it is to me is it looks like it's going to be I just had it here, a tornado warning, I think, for Giles and Murray County.
And Lawrence County as well.
And Lawrence County. Thank you very much, Mac.
Till 4:15.
Okay. 4:15, we have a tornado warning, which indicates that this is something you should take very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in that area, you should immediately seek shelter as soon as possible. And we apologize for the confusion here. There are many different ways now that we are broadcasting, but when we're on the air, we have to stop and actually run the National Weather Service alerts. That's required, and we always want to do that.
Yeah, we don't control it.
Yeah, we don't.
With stuff like that, it just happens.
It happens, and so if you're listening on the stream, you may not be able to hear all that. If you're listening or you're watching on our Facebook TV thing, you won't be able to hear all that. But we do have Mac Murray. Mac Murray, just give me the very latest there.
Yeah, we've got tornado warnings, Giles, Lawrence, and Murray County, like you said, until 4:15. That's really what we're looking at right now. This storm's still moving east, so we'll keep you updated right here.
All right, I am now moving into weather mode for just a moment, and we need to be very serious about this. I'm looking at that area. There is a pretty substantial storm that is down there. I would say just due west of Mount Pleasant, in that area. That's what I'm seeing right now. So let's make sure that we stay on top of this. Mac, if there is anything that we need to tell the folks, you break right in immediately.
Yes,
okay.
right away.
But right now, if you're in those areas that we just mentioned, is a tornado warning. You have to take that very seriously. Seek shelter now. Make sure that you are doing everything you can to protect you and your loved ones and your pets. All right, we'll be on that. I promise you. In the meantime, one other quick story while I have just a moment or two left here, and it has to do with John Fetterman. John Fetterman has checked into a hospital and is now being treated for clinical depression. This is the Senator John Fetterman, the guy who was elected in Pennsylvania, beat Dr. Oz for that job. The other day he was in the hospital and there was some concern that he was feeling lightheaded and they wanted to make sure he hadn't had a stroke or had some other kind of aneurysm or something that was related to his earlier condition. He checked out there, but now he's being checked back into the hospital, and we are told that the reason that he's doing that is because he wants to be treated for clinical depression. Here is Fetterman's chief of staff. Last night, Senator John Fetterman checked himself into Walter Reed National Military Medical Center to receive treatment for clinical depression. While John has experienced depression on and off through his life, it only became severe in recent weeks. Adam Gentleson, Fetterman's chief of staff, said. He was evaluated by Dr. Brian P. Monahan, the attending physician of the United States Congress. Yesterday, Dr. Monahan recommended inpatient care at Walter Reed. John agreed, and he's receiving treatment on a voluntary basis. According to the doctors at Walter Reed, John is getting the care he needs and will soon be back to himself. As I mentioned, the situation comes over a week after Fetterman was hospitalized after feeling lightheaded during a Senate Democrat retreat. But he's in the hospital now. He's being treated for clinical depression. Well, we hope the best for Senator Fetterman, of course, and depression is one of those things that you must take very seriously. And if he's being clinically depressed, then it's good that he's seeking the kind of care that he needs. Of course, it raises the inevitable questions. Did the people of Pennsylvania make the right decision in choosing Senator Fetterman? Because it would seem that Senator Fetterman has had more than his share of medical issues ever since he got to the United States Senate. We'll watch that story, and we're watching the weather. It is now 49 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock.
Tornado warning right now in effect for Murray, Giles, and Lawrence County. That's until 4:15. Fox 17 Weather's team just reported that a tornado is on the ground in Lawrence County right now, or in Lawrenceburg right now. We'll keep you updated with all of the storms coming to Middle Tennessee, 4 o'clock, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Yeah. I can also add to that, Mac, that apparently Channel 2 also reporting it's an on-the-ground tornado.
Okay.
I'm looking at the radar now, and it does appear that there is some activity on the radar that suggests that it's just west and halfway between Etheridge and Lawrenceburg.
Yeah, near Etheridge.
and
yes.
Lawrence. So there you have it. And we'll watch the clock. It's now 57 minutes after the hour, 3 o'clock. This tornado warning goes for Lawrence, Giles, and Murray County all the way until 4:15. So a few more minutes left on that. We're watching the weather very closely. We're also bringing you news and information you can use. Stay right here to SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. During your commute, we'll keep you apprised of everything that's happening in our area. It is now 57 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock. Hey, let's talk about McGill's Glock store. You know, when Cabana Wife and I went down to the Glock store, I thought I'd be the one that would, reel the dog, the guy putting the shots right on target downrange. Well, she showed me she was by far the better shot. But you know what? Training with her was a great deal of fun. I enjoyed it. And if you and your significant other want to enjoy a couple's training session, February is your month to visit the world-famous Glock store. All of February, your significant other trains for you for free if you have your paid range session. And that's not all. If your significant other is thinking about a handgun of their own, all couple sessions come with free handgun rentals to help them choose the perfect one. That's right. During your session, try out as many as you want, with or without optics. It's a good deal. To book your February couple session, simply go to shoot270.com and click on Book a Shooting Session. Learn more by going to the Glock store or call the Glock store at 615-682-6565. That's 615-682-6565. McGill's world-famous Glock store, minutes from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere.
Four o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right around 70 degrees, 69 degrees right now in Nashville, and we are monitoring storms. Tornado warning in effect right now for Murray, Giles, and Lawrenceburg counties. An on-the-ground tornado has been reported right in between Lawrenceburg and Etheridge, Tennessee. Some structural damage been reported as well. A propane tank on the ground leaking, and some homes near North Bradley Road and Mountain Lebanon Road in Lawrence County may have roof damage from the wind in this storm cycle. That comes from Lawrenceburg's Emergency Management Agency. The rest of Middle Tennessee right now in a tornado watch until 7 o'clock. These storms are all headed northeast at around 40 miles an hour. Just for a timeline, around 4:20, it'll be in Fountain Heights, 4:35, Lewisburg. Around 5 o'clock, it'll hit Shelbyville, and closer to 5:44, it'll be in Woodbury, Tennessee. That comes from Channel 4's radar. And again, tornado warning in effect for the next 15 minutes in Murray, Giles, and Lawrence counties. An on-the-ground tornado right between Lawrenceburg and Etheridge with structural damage reported. Tornado watch for the rest of Middle Tennessee. Now going over the nation's capital, President Biden today talked about the U.S. response to recent aerial objects that have been detected in U.S. airspace. Karen Travers brings us the latest.
President Biden said the U.S. does not yet know exactly what the 3 objects are that the military shot down over 3 days last week.
Nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country.
The president said the intelligence community's current assessment is that the 3 objects were likely balloons
tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
And when it comes to that Chinese spy balloon, the president says he wants to speak with President Xi, quote, to get to the bottom of this. A helicopter crash update last night. There were crew members who died on yesterday's Black Hawk helicopter crash. It happened in Huntsville, Alabama. They've now been identified as 2 Tennessee National Guardsmen who were from Jolton Murfreesboro. Chief Warrant Officer 3 Wadham had 15 years of service, and while Chief Warrant Officer 3 Randolph had 13 years of service, they were the only 2 on board. No civilians were injured in that crash. This crash happened near a subdivision in Huntsville, but it seems that they were able to guide this helicopter to a highway where there were no people or vehicles. Some FTX news. A federal judge in New York is considering new limits on disgraced FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried following allegations of witness tampering. Aaron Katersky has more from the federal court.
Sam Bankman-Fried has no margin for error, his defense attorney said after the judge raised the possibility of revoking bail and remanding the disgraced crypto executive into custody. The judge said Bankman-Fried committed possible witness tampering when he contacted employees of the collapsed crypto exchange he founded, FTX. Federal prosecutors did not ask for Bankman-Fried to be locked up, instead saying they can strike the right balance with new restrictions on his bail terms.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, but it's really not a good afternoon for many people within the sound of my voice right now because we have severe weather. We have a tornado warning until 4:15 for Lawrence, Giles, and Murray County. And we have some signs of tornadic activity down near Lawrenceburg and Etheridge. And they have some of this is radar indicated. Some have actually reported actually seeing a funnel on the ground, and there is damage in that area. We're being raked by a whole line of thunderstorms that runs right now from about Lebanon all the way down to Lawrenceburg, sort of a diagonal. If you're in Nashville right now, you're through the worst of it. Nothing behind the front, but the front is moving its way, and the storms are moving from the south, the southwest to the northeast. And so in the next hour or two, there are many communities that may be facing some of these severe storms, and we are all over it. If I were to guess, I would say, if I were to say looking where these storms seem to be headed, if I was in Spring Hill right now, I'd be buckling up. I'd be buckling up if I was in Culleoka, if I was in Lewisburg, Chapel Hill, Murfreesboro, all in the line of this diagonal stretch of storms that is now moving across our area. We have a tornado warning, and we have tornado watches, and we have thunderstorm watches as well, because we're right in the middle of it right now, folks. And Mac Murray is in the newsroom where he's watching all of this with great interest and will bring us up to date. We are about 7 minutes from having that tornado warning expire. But given the nature of that particular thunderstorm cloud, I would not be surprised to see that warning be extended and moved up a little bit as this cloud continues, this thunderstorm continues to move across the air. A very heavy thunderstorm right now around Etheridge and Lawrenceburg. There is reported damage on the ground, and people have actually, they say, spotted tornadic activity on the ground. It's not just radar indicated, as is often the case. So we're all over it. We're watching it. And Mac, if you hear anything that we need, I don't care what we're doing. I don't care if I'm on a commercial break. I don't care what it is. We will break in and provide that information. And of course, we may be at times interrupted by the National Weather Service with bulletins as they are coming in. So stay right here. If you're trying to get home, we're going to try to get you home safely. But stay right here on Super Talk 99.7. We are all over it. We've got it covered. All right. I want to move for a moment while we have some time to talk about what happened today with that Ohio train derailment. You know, the story actually started sort of slow. There wasn't a lot of original coverage on it. I don't know that there was anything nefarious. Some people think it was. I'll leave that for others to judge. But we are now getting a lot of coverage on it. And the question that seems to be asked over and over and over and over is, where in the world is where is the federal government in all this? I saw a statement today from the governor, Mike DeWine, that FEMA said that they didn't qualify for FEMA money as yet. So I thought that was sort of something. I mean, this town has been destroyed by the train derailment, and you got FEMA saying, "No, well, I'm sorry, we can't give you any money yet." The other question is, where is Mayor Pete? Where is Pete Buttigieg, the Secretary of Transportation? It was asked last night at a town hall meeting. I don't know if you can hear this or not. This is Mayor Trent Conway being asked, where is Pete Buttigieg? He said, I don't know where he is. Your guess is as good as mine. Yesterday was the first time that I have heard anything from the White House, he says. Well, how is that possible? How is it that this thing's been going on, and he's not heard anything from the White House? Senator Rubio in Washington wants to know, why isn't Buttigieg on this thing?
And I don't know what the guy needs to do to get fired, because he's been asleep at the switch, no pun intended, his entire time in office. Whether it's meltdowns at the FAA, whether it's what happened with Southwest Airlines, now this derailment of toxic chemicals. But his job is to make sure that not only is our system of transportation in this country reliable, but that it is safe.
Well, you know what he's doing? I can tell you where he is. He's sitting in his cushy office in Washington, D.C., blaming, of all people, President Trump. Yes, of course, it has to be Trump's fault. Can't possibly be his fault. There are 1,702 train derailments in America each year, about 4.5 a day. In fact, there's another one in Ohio now near Detroit. I'm saying Michigan. That's not Ohio. It's Michigan. Not far from, where the other one was. In Detroit. Doesn't seem to be bad, not like the one in Ohio. That one is just horrible. But Pete Buttigieg blames Trump. We're constrained, he says. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg shifted part of the blame for the recent derailment of a train carrying toxic chemicals in Ohio on the Trump administration and said they reversed a little-known safety rule. Buttigieg noted Tuesday evening his agency had taken a series of steps to improve rail safety through historic investments, but said it was constrained by the Trump administration action in 2018. The Department of Transportation withdrew a rule proposed 3 years earlier requiring trains carrying certain dangerous chemicals to utilize electronically controlled pneumatic brakes, saying the technology's benefits were inconclusive. In the wake of the East Palestine derailment and its impact on hundreds of residents, we're seeing a lot of newfound and renewed interest in that. Okay. We'll see how that all, these things don't come out of thin air.
I don't know what the guy...
I don't know. They come out of thin air. It is a horrible situation, though. And the EPA director is now apparently going to show up in East Palestine. And somebody said, okay, if he tells us that, the air is okay and the water is okay, we want him to drink some of this water, sort of like out of that movie Aaron Brockovich. Here we go.
Would you like the EPA administrator to drink the tap water?
It reminds me of that scene in Aaron Brockovich where she puts the water in front of them and says, if you think it's clean, we brought this water from, the community that was affected. Look, I think that if the EPA administrator wants to stand here and tell people that the tap water is safe, by all means, they should be willing to drink it. That's
Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, who's there on the ground. You got the governor has been on the ground. You've got the senator on the ground. And finally, days and days after this thing happened, we have the EPA administrator, still no Governor Pete. I'm sorry, Mayor Pete. He's not there, the Secretary of Transportation. I think there are many questions. Why is it that we have 1,702 derailments? How does that happen? What's going on with our rail system that there are so many derailments, or is that just the cost of doing business, I suppose? I don't know. The mayor of East Palestine says that we had to do that controlled explosion. On the town hall on Wednesday, according to Real Clear Politics, Trent Conaway, the mayor of East Palestine, explained the decision to blow up the chemical spill from a Norfolk Southern train derailment earlier in the month that emitted toxins. It is believed the controlled explosion contaminated the water supply, killed nearby wildlife, and gave people radiation kind of injuries. Conaway said the spilled chemicals were going to blow up on their own, and the controlled explosion was the lesser of two evils. That sort of echoes what the governor has said. Norfolk Southern officials did not attend the meeting. This, by the way, this is in a big gymnasium. Everybody who had something to say or wanted to get the information goes into the gymnasium. You got the mayor there, a rather rotund fellow, trying to keep the crowd informed, but also catching a lot of grief. Why did you let them do the explosion? Why did you allow them to, do this controlled explosion? And at least the argument that they give back is it was either going to blow and spread all kinds of debris over a 2-mile area, or we could try to control the explosion. And everybody thought, well, none of these are good options, but we don't have many good options here, so let's go with the lesser of two evils. We had to do it. They screwed up our town. They're going to fix it, Conway said of Norfolk Southern. I need help. I'm not ready for this, but I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere, he said. But the folks at Norfolk Southern did not show up for the hearing, not show up for the meeting, because they said they had increasing concerns about the physical threats made against their employees. People are that mad. Well, I mean, this little town, imagine that you've moved to a little town and you've set up and you've invested your entire life. You've got a house, you've got a home, all your belongings are there. This is where you have decided that you want to be in this bucolic little town, and a train derails. And I'm telling you, at some point, it may just simply be required that they just abandon the town. I don't know that it can be cleaned up. I don't know that they will ever get that little town back to where it was. People are going to move out. People are going to go away. People are not going to stick around. And would you? I'm not sure I would. I mean, if I felt like the chemicals were cancer-causing, and I'd seen what they'd done to animals and the fish and the frogs, I'm not sure I'd want to stick around. I mean, think about it. Literally, if it's in your backyard and you've got, a layer of ash all over your house, and these chemicals, we know these chemicals were deadly and carcinogen agents. Would you want to stick around? I'm not sure that you would want to stick around. I completely understand. This is, I think it's fair to say, this is indeed the Biden administration's Katrina. They are not responding in the way that they should respond. They're not answering the bell. They're slow on the uptake on everything. They're slow with the Chinese spy balloon. They're slow on this. They're slow, which says to me there's no leadership on this. Because if the president of the United States is cognizant enough to know what's going on in the world around him, he slaps his hand down on the table in the briefing room and says, by gosh, get on this, you would see all of the different levers of government come to rapid attention and get on it. We don't have leadership in our White House right now. We don't have anybody who's cognizant of what's going on in the world around him. He's just missing a beat. He's a little slow. He's not being kept abreast. Let's not bother the old man with that. He's got so many other things to deal with right now. That's the kind of thing we have going on right now. And it's not a good way to run a government. It really is not. It is 19 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. All right, let me talk to you about the BZB people. This is the people I call when I need help on my plumbing or my heating or my cooling. Just had some plumbing work done. Some good stuff being done to my house to upgrade the plumbing system. And I'm telling you, each time I have them come out, it's a great experience. They come out, they're very polite, they're very knowledgeable, they get the things done, they leave your house in really good shape. I mean, they put on the little booties when they come in. I mean, they're just good people who will come to your house and solve your problems. If you need a new HVAC or a plumbing replacement, well, there's no company you should call. You'll not find a better value anywhere. 12 months, same as cash on approved credit. You might want to become a member of the Beehive Club. I certainly am. I recommend it for you. You'll get 3 maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing each year. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Saturday availability for those maintenance calls. You'll never be left out in the cold or the heat or whatever you got right now. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Root Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling at 775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Monitoring weather, possible severe thunderstorms, tornado watch still in effect for a lot of the mid-state until 7 p.m. And we talk about some money news. That and more, 4:30 Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
It is 23 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Be weather aware today. Stay right here. We're keeping an eye on the weather as it sort of slashes its way across Middle Tennessee. There's a big thunderstorm, I would say, just due west of Culleoka. If I were in, let's say, Chapel Hill, I'd make sure that the cushions were in. The umbrella was down. This was not the time of year for cushions, is it?
Probably not, no.
No.
Might want to bring the chairs in with this type of storm. They may be gone.
Yes.
Got another sort of severe storm, I would say, just to the east of Spring Hill. And so, again, be aware of the weather around you. I think we're just back to watches now. Am I correct, Mac Maury? All of our warnings have
ceased. Yes, now just watches. We got a flood advisory in effect in a portion of Middle Tennessee, Giles, Lawrence, Marshall, and Murray County. That's until 5:45.
All right, and we do have some reports of some damage on the ground in Lawrenceburg and Etheridge. Okay, we'll give you more on that when we get it. The Ford Motor Company has halted production of its electric Lightning truck, the F-150 Lightning. Now, this was something that was, this was one of their big products. They were very excited about this. A lot of hoopla surrounding this. The movement of the electric vehicle into the truck world and the Ford world was a big, big, big story. People lined up to buy these things and bought them like crazy in the early going. You had to pay, actually, I think it had later on a premium for them. Well, they suspended production and halted shipments of the F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck after a battery caught fire during a pre-delivery quality check. The automaker said in a statement Wednesday night, it has no reason to believe electric pickups already in use by customers are affected by the battery issue, but there have been previous problems with the lithium-ion batteries used in a lot of electric vehicles. So here from the AP, Ford Motor Company suspended production of the F-150 Lightning. Production at Ford's Rouge Electrical Vehicle Center in Dearborn, Michigan, has been stopped at least until the end of the week. So that would be tomorrow. The automaker said in the same way, there was no reason to believe that this is a problem with the ones that are out there. Well, I'm not so sure about it because I kept hearing all these stories about how the electric truck wasn't really delivering if you were carrying any kind of load at all or if you got out there in the really cold weather. The fire happened at an outdoor lot beside and nearby Dearborn, where vehicles are held for quality checks. The truck with the battery problem and 2 nearby vehicles were damaged by the fire. No injuries reported. The company believes it has identified the root cause of the battery problem, including the likely population of trucks affected by it. We monitor vehicle data to help ensure our vehicles are performing as expected in the field. The company will continue to hold completed trucks until engineering and production changes are made. I think more and more, I wonder, of course, that's what they'll tell you. That's the story they're going to give you. You're not going to get, probably the whole story because they don't want to admit if it's a bigger story than what they have already told you. They just simply won't. I mean, they're not going to do anything against their own interest. And to get out here and say we got a real serious problem with the batteries on electric trucks would not be something you would ever expect them to say voluntarily. But I think more and more, as people are getting into the electric world, especially in this idea of electric trucks and everything, they're finding out that they're just not all that they're cracked up to be. There was a time where, out of curiosity, I really thought maybe I'll get me a Ford Lightning. I don't put that many miles on it. I am so glad I did not. I am so glad that I did not. I'm glad that I went and got a regular Ford F-150. Which I drive the wheels off of, and it performs beautifully. We're going to have to look at these electric cars, I think, going forward. I don't think they're going to be for everybody, and I don't know if you're driving an F-150 truck. I don't know that you're going to be able to. I mean, how reliable can it be if it doesn't go very far carrying a load? I mean, what do we do with trucks? We put loads on them. We fill them up. We carry heavy stuff. If you have a truck that can't carry heavy stuff, is that a truck that's in any way usable to you? They sold more than 15,000 of the trucks in the first full year of production. So there was a great demand for it, and they continue to look at these things. And they keep talking about everything. Well, we got Blue Oval City going in here in the state of Tennessee, where they are absolutely, trying to go toward the electric vehicle. The more and more that I study this thing and the more and more I read about it, I don't think we're ready for the electric vehicles they think we're ready for. There are some motor companies that will soon not make any cars that use the internal combustion engine. That's how serious they are about going to electric. Are we ready for that? I don't think we are. I don't think we're ready from charging station standpoint. I don't think the grid is ready for this. And I'm not sure that we're all going to be completely overwhelmed and wowed by these electric cars when we finally get to the point where you can't buy anything but one. There are a lot of issues to be worked out. We're in for a rough time here. My philosophy is I'm going to baby this F-150. I'm going to take it so easy normally I don't baby my vehicles. I run them hard. I do what I go do. I run hard. I run fast. I go where I want to go. I do what I want to do in my truck, and I don't ever look back. But this one's going to get treated like it's a precious child. It's going to get treated with kid gloves because I'm going to drive this thing well into the electric world that we're all headed into. And when everybody else, if I can still find gasoline, I'll drive this thing until it just absolutely will not go another mile. I don't know about you, but that's where I'm headed. 30 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
It's 4:30. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 67 degrees in Nashville. Tornado watch still in effect for most of Middle Tennessee until 7 p.m. That watch has moved east a little bit now, not including Dixon and Clarksville and Davidson. Instead, it's extended to Crossville and Cookeville in the eastern portions of the state. A tornado did touch down near Etheridge and Lawrenceburg earlier. There was some roof damage reported there. Flooding was being reported in Hopkinsville earlier. Now we've got a flood advisory in effect until 5:45 in Giles, Lawrence, Marshall, and Murray counties. Again, tornado watch moving east a little bit, not including Davidson County anymore, but a large portion of Middle Tennessee still in that tornado watch until 7 p.m. And again, flood advisory in effect until 5:45 in Giles, Lawrence, Marshall, and Murray counties. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. President Biden broke nearly 2 weeks of silence today on that Chinese spy balloon and other objects that the U.S. shot down with an address to the nation. Andy Field.
The president said he ordered the Chinese spy balloon shot down when it was safe, and that the military said that wasn't until it reached the Atlantic Ocean. As for the other 3 objects, he says the military thinks they
were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation, or research institutions.
The president says he's restricting 6 companies that do business with the Chinese army and plans to talk with President Xi.
Over to the money news. Here's Daria Albinger.
Stocks fell on new worries that inflation is still very much a concern for the economy. The Dow plunged 431 points, the Nasdaq gave up 215, and the S&P fell 57. Usually wholesale and consumer prices move in tandem. In other words, when one is up or down, the other usually is too. Well, that wasn't the case with the latest inflation report this week. The producer price index rose 0.7% from December to January, driven by a 5% surge in energy prices. That compared to a 0.2% drop from November to December. It's also counter to the drop in the consumer price index for the same time period. Fewer workers applied for unemployment benefits last week than expected, a sign that layoffs remain low. It's good news for workers, but the Fed worries that employers forced to offer competitive pay could add upward pressure on inflation, and that could mean more rate increases.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, let's talk about Sylvan Health and all the things it can do to make your life better. I mean, especially you know, when you think about nutrition, how important it is. It'll help you lose weight. It'll help you with your high blood pressure, your diabetes, your high cholesterol. All of these things are related to the food that we eat, right? Well, this is where Sylvan Health comes in. Sylvan connects you with a registered dietitian to help put together a nutrition plan for you without forcing you to cut out all the foods that you love. Your dietitian will provide tools such as a meal plan, shopping list, restaurant guides. You see, a few small tweaks to your diet can go a very long way. Appointments are done via video calls or over the phone, so there is no need to travel in for face-to-face meetings. That's nice. And here is the absolute best part. The service is covered by insurance. That's right, 90% of patients have zero out-of-pocket expenses. So schedule your appointment. Here is the number. Write it down. 833-279-5826. That's 833-279-5826. Or visit sylvanhealth.com and take that first step toward looking and feeling better, utilizing the power of great nutrition. It's 38 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk. We have a little bit more weather news to add. Another warning has gone up. It's not particularly in our listing area, but we want to make sure that you still know about it because we need to be weather aware. Mac Morey in the newsroom, can you fill us in on the very latest there?
Yeah, we've got tornado warnings now in effect until 5:30, I believe. 5 o'clock, excuse me, Bedford and Marshall counties, a warning there in Bedford and Marshall counties. And I'm listening to Dan Thomas right now on Channel 4. He says the rotation right now in this storm cycle is tight, which is something to be concerned about. If you're near Cowden, Farmington, Laws Hill, and Palmetto, those are places where that rotation is tight and those tornadoes may be forming.
Yeah, this is, I would say, to the east of Culleoka, Palmetto, Sim Springs, and down in that area. Bell Buckle, not far. So keep an eye out in that particular area. I guess we want to, stay alert to all of this stuff. We did have earlier today a reported tornado on the ground near Etheridge and Lawrenceburg. We haven't gotten a real readout on how much damage, but there was actually a tornado reported on the ground there. So these storms that are raking across our area right now in a diagonal slash that runs somewhere from, right now I'm looking, it's like Gordonsville and Carthage all the way down through, Watertown into Murfreesboro, into Spring Hill, and then down into Lawrenceburg. Is just so it's sort of at a 45-degree angle from the southwest to the northeast. That's what I would say. Okay, so there's that.
And Brian, I want to mention this real quick. I did get a text from a listener who sent a picture of some damage in Etheridge, Tennessee, and it looks to be a place of business, and the whole facade on the roof is just fell off the side of the building.
Right.
So yeah, definitely some heavy winds and some damage down that way.
All right, we're on it. Mac Morey will break in immediately. I mean, it doesn't matter if we're in a commercial break or whatever. We'll stop what we're doing if we have breaking news with regard to the weather. So try to get home safely. Keep an ear right here on Super Talk 99.7. We'll keep you abreast of as to what's going on. By the way, before I move on to my next story, Chris, we were talking about the F-150 and the batteries. You got an interesting text from one of our listeners.
Oh, yeah. He said he was actually texting from his Ford Lightning pickup truck. And he uses it basically to drive back and forth to work. And I've texted with him a few times, and he basically says that he gets around 200 miles of range. He's got the standard, range, the truck, not the extended one. Yeah. And but he did say that if he ever wants to haul anything, he uses his F-450. So, yeah. Which makes sense. I mean,
my point exactly. Yeah,
you're going to drive, use it to drive back and forth to work. I mean, that makes perfect sense. You're only going a certain distance each day.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense for that use, I suppose.
Absolutely.
He seems to love it.
All right. Well, good. For each his own. I'm glad I have my internal combustion engine. They'll get the keys to my internal combustion engine truck when they take my cold, dead fingers from around it.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll do a little phone thing here because I don't ever do this. I'm going to ask our female listeners to pay close attention to this next segment, and I want only female callers to call and give us your take on it. All right? And this has to do with CNN's Don Lemon. Oh, my gosh, did you hear what he said this morning? He's talking about, Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley has said that, she wants to run and she thinks that we ought to have younger people in the position, and says she wants to have, sort of like a cognitive test for anybody who is 75 years or older if they want to run for public office. And Don Lemon, being the lovely fellow that he is over on CNN, said the following. Are you ready for this, ladies? I want your reaction. 615-737-9986.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime.
Whoa, right there. He's just stepped into it. Does he even recognize how deeply he stepped into it? He's saying that Nikki Haley is not in her prime. I don't know how you react to that, but as a married man, I realize danger, danger, Will Robinson, run. Don't you have dug yourself into a hole. But you know what? Instead of stopping there, Don Lemon does what, you shouldn't do. He kept digging.
Sorry, when a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
You need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to
Google
or whatever it is.
Ladies, what say you? 615-737-9986. What would you like to say to Don Lemon? How would you like to disabuse him of that notion? Again, I want all my female callers, and we have a lot of them. Get on the phone right now. Tell me how you react to what Don Lemon has said and what you think should happen for Don Lemon. We'll start with Deb, who's calling in from Georgia. Hello, Deb. You're on with Brian on the drive.
Hey, big guy. He's of age too. and if you use Google, you're not smart. So he just the guy's an idiot.
Yeah.
How can you disabuse a female like that?
I forget that he's like in his 50s, and I think he is certainly had moved beyond his prime. But boy,
Exactly.
well, I mean, I can't believe that. I mean, look, I worked in television a lot of years, and I can tell you right now, you just know instinctively there's certain things you should never ever say. And apparently nobody taught Don Lemon this, or he has never been in a relationship with a woman, because he obviously did not know to stop digging the hole that he was making for himself. Okay, Deb, thanks for the call. Ladies, 615-737-9986. Ruth out on the road. Hello, Ruth. You're on with Brian, Ruth, on SuperTalk 99.7. What would you like to say to Mr. Lemon? Ruth.
How about Rose?
Okay, whatever. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yes, I would like to tell Mr. Lemon that he needs to look at the size of his penis and then have a talk with the women again.
Okay. Rose, where are you calling from? You sound like you're in the middle of a tornado.
Well, close. I'm on Interstate 40 heading towards Cookville. And, there's some thunder, some lightning, and lots of rain.
Do you have your windows down?
I do not. It's that loud out here.
Okay. It's very, very loud. Okay, well, thank you. No, that's why we thought your name was Ruth and not Rose. It's hard to hear you. Stephanie in Murfreesboro, you're up next on the drive. Do you have a message for Mr. Don Lemon? Stephanie.
Oh, goodness, I didn't hear you say my name. He probably should have read a little further down Google, because what he's talking about is a lady's prime for evening activities with a gentleman caller. And that has nothing to do with your cognitive ability. That is,
no.
And isn't, I might be wrong, maybe I'm getting my CNN dudes confused. Doesn't he have a little sugar in his shoes? Doesn't he not really hang out with ladies much?
I think some have observed such. I don't know, and I don't normally care, but you might be right on that. I'm telling you, he seemed to be absolutely clueless, and I can tell you, if you've been in any relationship, you would have known better than to stick that one out there. I'm serious. I mean, clearly, this guy does not have a clue. Anna, let's go to our next caller. Anna in Mount Juliet. Anna, you're on with Brian on the drive.
I would ask Don Lemon, what is the prime for a man then?
What do you think the prime for a woman is in your estimation?
Well, I agree with the ladies he was talking to. Prime for what? Prime for childbearing or just prime for life? I would say anytime you want it to be the prime. If you feel good at 70, then that could be your prime. It's different for everybody, and it depends on what you're talking about. Again, childbearing or your work life, your family life, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I was in my prime for some things when I was in my 20s. I was in my prime for some other things when I was in my 30s. And I felt like, professionally probably hit my peak and my top earning years in my 40s and 50s, absolutely. So, I mean, it does vary with everybody. But, I mean, God, what a stupid guy this is. Let's go to Sandy in Nashville. Sandy, do you have some message you'd like to impart to Don Lemon about women in their prime? Sandy. Yeah, Sandy, you're up. Go.
I didn't hear your name. Yes. Well, I would kind of echo what other people have said. I think what's the prime for a woman? I'd ask Golda Meir. I'd ask Sandra Day O'Connor. I'd ask Margaret Thatcher what they considered prime for a woman. What's prime for a man? That's a whole other question. And quite frankly, I would ask Mr. Lemon, who really made some sour lemonade out of this. What's the prime for a gay man? I looked on Google and it looked lower than what he is now. So I think you better watch what darts he's throwing where here, because they're gonna boomerang back on him, I think. So.
All right, Sandy, I greatly appreciate that. Let's see if I got time here. I got time for maybe one more. Brenda, is it Colmont? Brenda. Hello, Brenda. You're on with Brian on the drive. What do you say, Brenda? Hello. We're having trouble. Nobody seems to be able to hear me today. Brenda, it's your turn.
I'm Linda.
Okay. Well, see, here's the problem. It's your car is so loud we can barely hear you. Go ahead, Linda. You're up.
That's okay. I was just appalled by what I heard on the radio. I am riding in a thunderstorm, but I am a 60-year-old Air Force veteran, and I run circles around men my age. So I think that he really needs to get a new job.
All right, Linda, and again, we apologize. She's in a thunderstorm, so, I mean, that explains why everything's so loud. In some of these thunderstorms, we've been talking about reports of actually observed reports, not estimations, of hail 3/4 of an inch high, is large. So it is very serious out there. So thank you all for participating in that phone call. We appreciate it. It is now 51 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. You don't do a talk segment, I guess, in the middle of a thunderstorm. You can't hear anybody. I hadn't thought that one through. I'll work on that. Hey, listen, let me tell you about the folks over at Accurate Mortgage. They want you to know that, by the way, you hear a lot of talk about rates going up right now. Well, they may not be as bad as you think they are, and they may be lower than in the last few weeks. So why don't you check in before you automatically write off the idea of getting a loan? Here's where a payment reduction mortgage might help out from our friends at Accurate Mortgage. It's a fixed rate payment reduction mortgage. It lets buyers enjoy reduced payments during the first 3 years of owning their new home and gives them the flexibility to grow into their payments. It's a fixed rate mortgage, not an adjustable rate, but you just get a break in the first 3 years. Sellers love the payment reduction mortgage because it can help them sell their home while avoiding major price reductions. Buyers get reduced payments and sellers get more profit. I mean, there's a lot to love about this idea. So whether you're selling your home or in the market to buy one, why don't you call the loan advisors at Accurate Mortgage to help you find the right loan solution for you. Visit Accurate Mortgage today at AccurateMTG.com. That's AccurateMTG.com. Accurate Mortgage Group, a division of Acopi LLC, an equal housing lender. NMLS number is 4664.
Monitoring weather right now as storms are on the way and going through all of Middle Tennessee, monitoring tornado watches right now in all of the mid-state. And President Biden, after 2 weeks of silence, finally addresses the aerial objects flying over the nation. All that and more coming up. 5 o'clock, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Oh, there are parts of that story that are just too delicious to believe. Have you heard the very latest about the balloons? Oh, just hang around because you're not going to believe this one. It's all straight ahead right here on the drive. It is now, I got to look, 59 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. All right, do you sometimes wake yourself up with your own snoring? Is your sleeping partner giving you the sharp elbow in the middle of the night? Have you been relegated to sleeping on the couch? You know, it's time to do something about that nonsense. Set up an appointment with Dr. Stephen Poss at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. 2 locations for your convenience, one in Brentwood, one in Murfreesboro. He can make a customized FDA-approved mouthpiece proven effective in treating mild to moderate cases of sleep apnea. Maybe you tried the CPAP machine and you just didn't like it. I understand. Listen to what Julie said. Since my husband got his mouthpiece, he basically stopped snoring at night. Our bedroom is much quieter. I'm sleeping so much better. He's sleeping better. It's been a win-win situation for us. Start getting a good night's sleep. Feel more energized during the day. Contact the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic at your earliest convenience to set up an appointment with Dr. Poss. 615-850-8445. Learn more at drposs.com.
5 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top story. 67 degrees in Nashville right now. Still monitoring the storms that are coming through the state currently. Tornado watch in effect for most of Middle Tennessee until 7 o'clock. That watch has moved east a little bit now, not including Dixon and Clarksville and even Davidson. Instead, is extended to Crossville and Cookville. A tornado touched down on the ground near Etheridge and Lawrenceburg a little bit earlier. Some roof damage has been reported there. Flooding is being reported in Hopkinsville. A flood advisory right now in effect until 5:45. That's in Giles, Lawrence, Marshall, and Murray counties. And another flood advisory in effect until 5:30 in Davidson, Rutherford, Sumner, Williamson, and Wilson counties. So 2 flood advisories, one in effect until 5:45, Giles, Lawrence, Marshall, and Murray counties. And then in 5:30, a flood advisory lasting in Davidson, Rutherford, Sumner, Williamson, and Wilson counties. And again, a tornado watch for most of the mid-state until 7 p.m. We'll keep you up to date with all of the weather activity right here on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. For the first time, President Joe Biden addressing the public today on the 3 unidentified flying objects and the Chinese spy balloon shot down over the U.S. and Canada in recent weeks, making no apologies for his decisions. He says he expects to speak with President Xi, quote, to get to the bottom of this. Luis Martinez at the Pentagon says while the debris recovery is still underway, U.S. officials don't believe the 3 objects were connected to the China spy balloon.
China has about 200 satellites up in the sky that can survey American military facilities whenever they want to. But this was, I guess, designed to be a program that would kind of fill in the gap, get close-up pictures. But was this actually intentional? That's something that we as ABC and other news outlets are reporting, that it's possible that this balloon actually was never intended to fly over the continental United States, but actually was misdirected by strong winds. And then instead it was supposed to go over Guam and Hawaii, and like previous incidents, and instead it was taken all the way up north to Alaska and then flown over the United States.
In Tennessee, some crime. Channel 4 reports that a woman, 25-year-old Rebecca Stockton, was found dead at the Fortress Grove Apartments. The investigation still goes on. Stockton may have been in an argument with a 41-year-old man, Shaleem Hamilton. Police developed leads. They eventually were able to locate Hamilton in Corbin, Kentucky. He's been charged with first-degree murder, and they're all still looking in over all the details right now. Officials say Hamilton remains in custody in Kentucky and will be extradited back to Rutherford County. And in Ohio, the head of the EPA paid a visit to the community there dealing with an aftermath of a train derailment. Daria Albinger has some details.
A promise to worried residents of East Palestine, Ohio, nearly 2 weeks after a train derailed, spilling toxic chemicals.
As President Biden told Governor DeWine, anything the state needs, we will be here to help.
EPA Administrator Michael Regan toured the community Thursday.
We are absolutely going to hold Norfolk Southern accountable, and I can promise you that.
Regan says he understands why people would question the information they're getting, but he urged residents to trust the EPA's testing.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, beginning our third hour here on SuperTalk 99.7. We are watching the weather very closely. In fact, I'm watching it very closely right now because they just put up a severe thunderstorm warning for Watertown, among other places.
Uh-oh.
And I'm looking at the radar here, and there's a big red, blob coming right at me. So I guess what I'm going to say is, if I have to leave You guys just carry on without me, okay? I mean, if I have to go run for the hurricane or the tornado closet, then you'll know.
All right.
You'll know. Yeah, but I'll carry my phone. How would that be?
Nice.
Now
All right.
we in fact I just heard a huge thunderbolt here just a moment ago. In Bucolic, Watertown, we've got one coming right at us. Wilson, Rutherford, and Cannon County apparently have parts of them are facing, and it's because I can see right what it is. It's a big storm coming. It's just a little north of Murfreesboro right now, so we're watching that very closely. Let's talk. Can we talk about balloons? Let's talk about balloons. We got all kinds of things we want to talk about balloons today because the President of the United States. How many days has it been? We've been waiting for the president to come out and tell us what do we know about these balloons? And he hasn't come out, and he hasn't come out, and he hasn't come out. Well, he did finally today, and I'm going to share some stuff. Some of this is just downright riotously funny. And you know, what we're going to hear is, and what you're going to hear, the general theme of everything the president said is what I've been trying to tell you for the last couple of days, the way it seemed to be shaping up. I wasn't basing it on anything that Biden said. I was basing it on the information that was available and what we were hearing. Chinese spy balloon, a thing. The other three they shot down, not so much a thing. So here is the president talking not about the Chinese spy balloon, but about the three other objects that have been shot down by the U.S. military. Are you ready?
They tracked three unidentified objects, one in Alaska, Canada, and over Lake Huron in the Midwest. They acted in accordance with established parameters for determining how to deal with unidentified aerial objects in U.S. airspace. At their recommendation, I gave the order to take down these three objects due to hazards to civilian commercial air traffic and because we could not rule out the surveillance risk of sensitive facilities. Our intelligence community is still assessing all three incidences. They're reporting to me daily and will continue their urgent efforts to do so, and I will communicate that to the Congress.
Listen to this.
We don't yet know exactly what these three objects were, but nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country.
Okay.
The intelligence community's current assessment is that these three objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
He said they were what? That they were just like weather balloons? And did he mention something about hobbyists?
Recreation or research institutions.
Recreation. Was this is something that somebody put together in the garage? If only there had been anybody out there who would tell you, you know what, I think that ultimately you're going to find out that some of these things that were out there were hobbyists. People built these in their garages and launched them as just sort of a hobbyist thing. If there had been anybody who had told you that, well, it certainly would have made you feel better. But, oh, wait, there was somebody who did that. I did that. I told you that a couple of days ago. I think one of these things is going to turn out to be a hobbyist balloon. Oh, wait. There's more. Are you ready for this? Understand that we had this Chinese balloon that came across. I think the evidence is going to show that they were watching the Chinese balloon as it was launched from China. They knew it was coming. They were going to let it slide across the country and hope nobody noticed. But, of course, in Montana they did. And then there was a hue and cry. People were outraged. Oh, my gosh, the Chinese are flying a spy balloon over the country. Oh, my gosh, people could look up and they could see it. Fox News could get pictures of it. Oh, my gosh, and they were just really outraged by it all. And so, by the time it got all the way across the country, the Biden administration decided, well, we better shoot this thing down because people are upset. So they shot it down. And then I think it's Wilson's first rule of government. Government doesn't act, government reacts. And then when it gets to the mode of reacting, often it overreacts. They reconfigured the radar. All of a sudden now, blip, 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 they got balloons everywhere, and they're starting to shoot them down. And so they spent, it looks like to me, they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars to shoot down weather balloons, research balloons, balloons that had been there all along, except that they didn't know they were there because their radar had been configured in a way as they couldn't really see them. But now they can see them, so they're going to run around and shoot them all down. Listen to this story, and this comes from Aviation Week. You can look this up. A small globe-trotting balloon declared missing in action by an Illinois-based hobbyist club on February 15th has emerged as a candidate to explain one of the 3 mystery objects shot down by 4 heat-seeking missiles launched by the U.S. Air Force since February 10th. The club, known as and we've reached out to them, the Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade, or the NIBBB, they've got a website and everything, is not pointing fingers yet, but listen to the circumstantial evidence that they put forward. The club's silver-coated party-style Pico balloon reported its last position on February 10th as being 38,910 feet off the west coast of Alaska. And then that was where it was spotted. They have little pingers on them that ping, and people pick them up with their radios, and they do the triangulation. They say, this is where it was located. This is where we heard it. So it was heard off the west coast of Alaska. And then you look at, well, okay, where would the prevailing winds, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric maps, show you where this would have taken it from where it was? Well, it projects that the cylindrically shaped object, where did we hear that before, would be floating high over the central part of the Yukon Territory on February 11th. That happens to be the same day a Lockheed Martin F-22 shot down a cylindrical object and at the altitude in the same general area as the prevailing winds probably should have taken it. These are the suspicions among other prominent members of the small Pico balloon enthusiast community. They're called Pico balloons, which apparently combines ham radio and high-altitude ballooning into a single, relatively affordable hobby. The description of all 3 unidentified objects shot down February 10th through 12th matched the shapes, altitudes, and payloads of the small Pico balloons, which can actually be purchased, are you ready for this, for between $12 and $180, depending on the type. I want you to understand that it's beginning to look increasingly a pretty good case to be made here that our military scrambled F-22s and all kinds of military aircraft to shoot down with missiles that cost $350,000 to $400,000 apiece what appear to be hobbyist balloons. That's right. That cost between $12 and $180. They're spending millions of dollars to try to recover the wreckage of what appears to be hobbyist balloons. That cost between $12 and $180. Again, government doesn't act, it reacts, and generally then overreacts. People were upset about the Chinese spy balloon, which is a thing, okay? That's a thing. So they started shooting down everything that looked like a balloon because they had to show people, oh my gosh, we have balloons everywhere, we need to start shooting them down. And they were shooting down, it's beginning to look like balloons that have always been there. In fact, some people have a term for it. They call it sky trash. We have trash in the ocean. We have trash in the upper atmosphere. People launch these balloons all the time for research, for fun, for hobbies. It's a thing. And in fact, the folks at the, what was it called? The Northern Illinois Bottle Cap Balloon Brigade tried to reach out to the FBI to say, I think we know what these things are that you're talking about. I don't think they're anything to be concerned about. And they couldn't get anybody to take them seriously. Nobody take the phone call. Nobody take the report. Is it a big runaround? Yeah. Your government at work. Listen, I'm telling you, when the story of this thing is written, it's going to be that they knew the big balloon was coming. They were going to let it fly over the country because they wanted to watch it. Now, they don't want to admit that, but apparently that they said that they thought there was intelligence to be gathered and that they could do something to make sure that we didn't give up any intelligence. What they basically did was, if it was flying over a missile silo, they closed the missile silo. If they're flying over the B-2 base, they put the B-2s in a hangar. They mitigated on the ground. They didn't do anything to change what the balloon was doing. There's a whole lot more to be drawn from this, but understand that there was a tremendous, it looks like now, it's beginning to shape up, like I said 2 or 3 days ago, a tremendous overreaction by the government after the initial balloon created such a furor. Your government at work spending millions of dollars to shoot down $180 hobbyist balloons. Oh my gosh. More after this. It's now 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. All right, think back to the holidays. You had the family around. Maybe some of your more elderly relatives were there, and you took a look at them and you realized, oh my goodness, we love them so much, but gosh, they really do need an extra hand now. They can't do all the things that they once did. How are we going to solve that problem? I mean, you've got your family, you've got your big important job, and maybe there's even distance involved. You can't be there. So what do you need? Well, why don't you reach out to Assisted Family Care? They can help you. They can connect you with the most responsible, compassionate, compatible helper to assist you with your loved one's daily needs. Now, if your loved one is a veteran or a spouse or a widow of a veteran, they could well qualify for a little-known benefit to help cover those kinds of expenses. Assisted Family Care can cut through the red tape to help those in Middle Tennessee who qualify to get access to this benefit. I mean, that's what you need, right? You need a little help. Assisted Family Care can help. Assisted Family Care will be there for you. Visit assistedfamilycare.com to learn more or call this number, 615-833-9725. Again, 615-833-9725.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
A tornado watch still in effect for a lot of Middle Tennessee. A tornado watch in effect for portions of the state as well as flood advisories around the state, lightning strikes damaging trees, hail around this storm as well. We're tracking it all right here, 530 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 24 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super. I'm having to use the little clock today because I've got my weather radar up here on where I normally my big clock is. Looks like we're going to dodge a bullet right here in bucolic Watertown. It's going to slide just a little south of us. It's going to shoot the gap between the lovely communities of Watertown and Liberty.
All righty then. Yeah, luckily it's it's a small, thin cell of heavy rain. Of course, it's severe in the areas that it's severe.
Yeah,
but
and when
will
you're
pass
there,
quickly.
it really. So anyway, we're watching the weather and be weather aware out there. Keep an eye on the sky. Talking about these balloons that were shot down, not the spy balloon, because that's a thing, and we're going to talk more about that in a moment. But these other 3 balloons, which one of them it seems it's an incredibly compelling case. It's circumstantial, but I mean they've got it nailed. This was a hobbyist balloon. I'm just reading more about these so-called pico balloons that these people often launch into the upper atmosphere. The one that apparently was shot down over the Yukon Territory, if that turns out to be it, they're saying that it actually went aloft and circumnavigated the globe 7 times. So once you get up into the upper atmosphere and get into the airstream, this thing will go all the way around the world and come back again. And they track them all over the world. And there are all kinds of balloons up there. You can go to their website and look that they're tracking currently. This is one of them that apparently got shot down by an F-22. I'm going to get me a pico balloon. I'm going to order one tonight when I get off air. I'm going to get me a tank of helium. I'm going to get me a pico balloon. I'm going to stick FARB stickers all over it, and we're going to launch it before they outlaw them, because they're about to outlaw them. In fact, there's a whole list of new rules and procedures that are on our way. Here's the president from earlier today.
I've directed my team to come back to me with sharper rules for how we will deal with these unidentified objects moving forward, distinguishing between those that are likely to pose safety and security risks that necessitate action and those that do not. But make no mistake, if any object presents a threat to the safety and security of the American people, I will take it down. In addition, I've directed my national security advisor to lead a government-wide effort to make sure we are positioned to deal safely and effectively with the objects in our airspace. First, we will establish a better inventory of unmanned airborne objects in space above the United States airspace, and make sure that inventory is accessible and up to date. Second, we'll implement further measures to improve our capacity to detect unmanned objects in our airspace. Third, we'll update the rules and regulations for launching and maintaining unmanned objects in the skies above the United States of America. And fourth, my Secretary of State will lead an effort to help establish common global norms in this largely unregulated space. These steps will lead to safer and more secure skies for our air travelers, our military, our scientists, and for people on the ground as well.
One of these pico hobbyists says that he uses a foil balloon made by a Japanese company called Yokohama. It cost him $12. The material is proven to be resilient for long periods at high altitude. He said even the manufacturer never intended the balloon to be used for that, but the hobbyists have decided it's a perfect balloon for their purposes. Unbelievable. They can fly between 20 and 40,000 feet. It's just astonishing. All right, what else? Well, let's talk about the Chinese balloon, the one that we care about, the one that was spying on America. Here's what the president said about that. And with his statement, it really raises more questions than answers.
When one of these high-altitude surveillance balloons entered our airspace over the continental United States earlier in the month, I gave the order to shoot it down as soon as it would be safe to do so. The military advised against shooting it down over land because of the sheer size of it. It was the size of multiple school buses and it posed a risk to people on the ground if it was shot down where people lived. Instead, we tracked it closely, we analyzed its capabilities, and we learned more about how it operates. And because we knew its path, we were able to protect sensitive sites against collection.
What does he mean by that? He means basically they were able to cover up things that the spy satellite would have been able to see, or maybe they turned off the radios so that the spy satellite could not listen. But they didn't jam it. It was collecting. We just don't know what it all saw.
We waited until it was safely over water, which would not only protect civilians, but also enable us to recover substantial components for further analysis, for further analytics. And then we shot it down, sending a clear message. The violation of our sovereignty is unacceptable. We'll act to protect our country, and we did.
Yeah, you did after it had flown the entire country. I mean, if you want to send a message to China, you let that get about a mile into United States airspace, and you smoke it with a missile. You take it down. That would send the message. Not letting it lollygag around the entire country, sucking up all kinds of intelligence. That doesn't make any sense. Well, I mean, they were watching this thing from day one, and I think that the plan was, I'm not even sure the president was brought into it until very late. I think the military and the intelligence community knew it was coming, didn't care that much, thought they would watch it, thought they would let it fly across the country and see what they could observe about it, and then maybe shoot it down. I don't know. If it hadn't been, for the fact that somebody in Montana spotted the thing and they had to confess that, yes, there's a Chinese spy balloon flying across the country, we probably would have not even known anything about this. It is now 6:30 on SuperTalk 99.7.
It's 5:31. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 66 degrees in Nashville. Still monitoring all of these storms that are coming across the mid-state that do have the potential for severe effects. Big lightning strikes have damaged trees. Flooding has been reported across the state as well. Severe thunderstorm warning right now in effect until 5:45, the next 15 minutes. That's in southeastern Rutherford County, northern Coffee County, northeastern Bedford, and southwestern Cannon counties. With that could come half-dollar-sized hail along with 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. A tornado watch still in effect for a large portion of the mid-state until 7 p.m., and a flood advisory also in effect for the next 15 minutes in Giles, Marshall, and Murray County. So that severe thunderstorm in Rutherford, Coffee, Bedford, and Cannon, and then a flood advisory for the next 15 minutes in Giles, Marshall, and Murray counties with that tornado watch for most of the middle Tennessee portion of the state until 7 o'clock tonight. To the nation's capital, President Biden today defending the U.S. response to recent aerial objects that were detected in U.S. airspace. The president offering 4 recommendations for how his administration will deal with such objects, including establishing a better inventory of the unmanned airborne objects, implementing more measures to improve capacity to detect these objects in U.S. airspace, and update the rules and regulations for launching and maintaining these objects in U.S. skies. And having the Secretary of State lead an effort to help establish common global norms on the issue. President Biden on the Chinese balloon that was shot down.
Because we knew its path, we were able to protect sensitive sites against collection. We waited until it was safely over water, which would not only protect civilians, but also enable us to recover substantial components for further analysis, for further analytics.
The president mentioned that he wants to speak with President Xi to, quote, get down to the bottom of this. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let's talk about Grace Point Healthcare delivering medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing. You're going to know how much it will cost before the care is actually delivered. You know, they're really well known for their smart care plans. Just $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And if you want to pay a little more for a premium smart care plan, they'll actually include some home visits, a couple a year, if you need them. I mean, who does that? Well, Grace Point does that. And because they treat the whole family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, you marry this with a high deductible insurance program, it will save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. No long wait times or crowded wait rooms, and they treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point wants you to know they believe strongly in freedom of choice when it comes to vaccines for you and your children. Grace Point Healthcare on Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. $5:39 on SuperTalk 99.7. Yes, I said $5:39. Like I got this big clock in front of me normally. But what happens is that when there is weather, I have to take my big clock down to put in the weather radar so I can see what's going on, right? I want to be up to speed and all that. And then I have to rely on the little tiny clock on the computer screen, which I can barely see. I mean, there are lights shining in my eyes, for goodness sake. We're doing television here. How do you expect me to see that little tiny thing with the glare in my eyes?
Wow. Sounds like you're making excuses there, Brian.
No, maybe a little bit. Well, I actually, we've really made adjustments to the lighting here in the bucolic Watertown studio. I mean, we've got some really beautiful lighting now.
Yeah, the background lighting, that's what's really impressive. I mean, take a look at that.
You know, a lot of people just throw up a ring light and say, okay, let's do television. Not me.
No.
I have lit the entire studio so that it looks good for television. And it does. It looks really good. It has some color in the background, sort of my set.
Yeah. Exactly. I can even on-air light back there in the background under Ricky.
Under there, and then you got a lot of other. I mean, it's a really interesting background. If you've not watched on SuperTalk Live TV, you really should look it up on our Facebook page, on our Twitter page, on our YouTube page, or on Twitch. It's all available there to be looked at. And I take a lot of time to carefully place things in the backdrop so you'll have, not only will you have news and information you can use, you'll have an interesting backdrop to study, and you can learn little things about how we do radio. You can watch us, and you sometimes see things happen.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes you see me throw up my hands in exasperation, like when I call somebody on the phone, and I say, all right, stand by, you're up next on the drive, and I call their name, and it's like
chirp,
silence.
Chirp, chirp.
I say, no, were you talking to me? My name is Rose, not Ruth.
Rose, Ruth, close enough.
Well, apparently what was happening was, it was sort of an odd thing. They were driving through the rain, and so there was a lot of noise in the car.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, but maybe we shouldn't even be asking people to call in the middle of a thunderstorm. I hadn't thought about that one. But nonetheless, it was hard to hear them.
That, and I probably should get my hearing checked.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Just in case.
Yeah, me too. Many years with headphones, it takes its toll.
What's that?
Huh? What? Huh? I can't hear you, huh? All right. There's a couple, 2 or 3 stories I want to share with you. We talked a lot about, China and its spy balloon. We haven't talked too much about this, and it's something to be concerned about. 2 U.S. F-35 fighter jets intercepted a Russian fighter aircraft Thursday as it approached Alaska's air defense identification zone. Now, that's not over our airspace, but we say If you're going to approach us from this area, we expect you to identify yourself so that we know you're out there. And so it included a Russian military aircraft, included a Tu-95 Bear bomber, and then a couple of an Su-30 and an Su-35 fighter jets. These are Russian military aircraft testing. See, they know that we're sort of on edge right now because of the whole Chinese balloon thing. And they said, well, this would be a perfect time for us to run our little tests and see what their response would be. NORAD stated the incident was not related to the spate of unidentified aircraft, of identified aircraft seen in recent weeks, calling the situation routine. It's routine. These Russian Bear bombers fly right up to Alaska and then veer off and go back all the time. And every time we send out an F-35, it's just a little game. You know what? I don't like this game. I think it's a dangerous game. I wish we wouldn't play this game. This is the second intercept of Russian aircraft over 2 days. The Russian activity near the North American ADIZ, that's Air Defense Identification Zone, occurs regularly and is not seen as a threat, nor is the activity seen as provocative. This according to FoxNews.com. But again, you get tested by the Chinese, and you can be certain, well, as soon as the Chinese are through testing you, that you're going to get tested by the Russians. We have people in the world who don't really think highly of us. And tensions are high between us and the Russians right now. And tensions because of the spy balloon are very high right now between us and the Chinese. I love this story because it just first of all, I cannot believe that this happened in the nation's capital at the National Archives. But there were a couple of pro-life people who were there for the March for Life, the annual event that they do there in Washington, D.C. And they had on their T-shirts and they had on their hats and all of that kind of stuff, pro-life slogans and that kind of stuff on them. And they decided, hey, while we're here, let's go see, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and all of that, which is on display in downtown Washington at the National Archives. If you've never been to the National Archives, you really should go. It's really quite inspiring. You'll see all kinds of amazing stuff there. I've gone there not only to see, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and all that kind of stuff, but I go on there to do family tree research. It's really quite an interesting place. So they're there, and they got their T-shirts on, and they are stopped by security officers who said, you can't come in here because you have slogans on your T-shirt that some people might be triggered by. Security officers denied entry to multiple people, including a law student by the name of Wenda Lee Lassiter, because they had pro-life messages on their clothes. Have they not heard at the National Archives of this little thing called the First Amendment? It's right there among all the other amendments. It's the first one. Seems like they would have heard about it at the National Archives, where they actually put on display the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Unbelievable. So now there's been a big fight over this, and the National Archives has said, you know what, we were wrong. Well, okay, I give them that. I'm glad that they decided that they were wrong. They were wrong. They should never have done this. But there has now been, they've had to go to mediation on the matter, and now they have a settlement that has been reached. They hammered out an agreement stating in part that all the defendants, including the archives, are enjoined from barring visitors from wearing clothing that displays protest language, including religious and political speech. The block, which would not apply to clothing containing profanity, would be until January 19th of 2025 unless a new order is entered. Every archive security officer will be provided with a copy of the order if the court agrees with the proposed agreement. The National Archives shall further reiterate to all National Archives security officers, as well as other NARA personnel who interact with the public, volunteers, museum staff, etc., that Visitors are allowed to wear T-shirts, hats, buttons, and other similar items that display protest language, including religious and political speech. How do they even have to do this? How do they even have to explain this to the National Archives? And they then apparently now have to give a guided tour of the archives to everybody who was denied the opportunity to go on the tour before. A personal guided tour. I hope they take them down to the vault. I've always wanted to see the vault. That's of all the years I was in Washington, the one thing that I never got to see. It's impossible. Nobody gets to see it. Very few people get to see it. The vault, where all those very valuable and important documents go every night. It's said to be hundreds and hundreds of feet beneath Washington, D.C. I would love to go to the vault. I would love to do that. I understand that one year during the State of the Union address, the designated survivor, usually they go off and have a dinner somewhere over in Northern Virginia, or they hang out at a secure location. Maybe they go to Camp David. The designated survivor has to get out of Washington, has to get away from Washington. But one time I heard they took them to the vault and had them hang out in the vault. Now, that would be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Scary, I think. I wouldn't want to be down there. I'd be afraid I'd get stuck.
I want to go. I want to go to there. Well, anyway, they straightened that out. I'm glad they did. This, of course, it has to do with the Biden document thing. The documents that were found right next to the Corvette. Okay, I'm not going to do that to you, but they were right there by the Corvette. The FBI has searched now the University of Delaware in connection with President Biden's mishandling of classified documents. Sources say no classified files have been found yet, but the FBI continues to go through documents and will determine if some are classified. Biden's legal team has reportedly been cooperative with the investigation. The University of Delaware is the president's alma mater and home to the Biden School of Public Policy and Administration. The FBI searched on two separate occasions. It was not immediately clear when the searches occurred, but they say so far they have not found classified documents. This is where the documents from Biden's time as a senator went. And we know that some of the classified documents found at the House in Delaware came from his time as a senator, so it made a lot of sense. Maybe we should go look at the University of Delaware as well. By the way, University of Delaware, as well as the University of Pennsylvania, got scads of money from the Chinese because I think of their Biden connection. Seems to be connected. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Let's talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville, 615-246-5009. Again, 615-246-5009. This is the number you call to set your appointment for the Wellness Institute of Nashville. And right now, a special deal. If you've been wanting to try out non-surgical spinal decompression, half price off through the rest of this month. That's right, half price off. No excuses to get started on your 2023 health goals to be pain-free. 50% off non-surgical spinal decompression. No surgery, no injections, no addictive painkillers, and you'll get to meet Dr. Kevin Mitchell. That's right. Dr. Kevin Mitchell is my doctor. He will be your doctor. You'll see him each and every time that you guys saw him this morning, having a little non-surgical spinal decompression on my neck and my back. It's been very helpful. My back no longer hurts. You can get your first consultation, if you're a new patient, for $23. That's right, an exam, a consultation, x-rays included. And if you want to bring in an MRI report or something, you can go over with Dr. Mitchell. Set up a course of action, a course of therapy for you. And if you're like most people, you're like me, you'll find that you start to feel better in just a few visits to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Meet with Dr. Mitchell, find out what's possible. And ask to meet Dr. Ashley. She's lovely. She brings in a whole bunch of different kinds of knowledge, but also an expert in non-surgical spinal decompression. 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com. Let me tell you about the folks at Beacon. If you're worried about inflation and recession affecting your retirement, you want to be sure and join Beacon Capital Management for a free lunch seminar coming up Wednesday the 22nd at Five Oaks Country Club in Lebanon, or Thursday the 23rd at Parthenon Grill in Murfreesboro. You can call or text to RSVP. Here's the number, 615-488-9303 for information. This is a good thing. Have lunch. Listen to what they have to say. I think you'll be favorably impressed. Again, that is on Wednesday the 22nd at Five Oaks Country Club in Lebanon, or the 23rd at Parthenon Grill in Murfreesboro. And again, the RSVP number is 615-488-9303 to get more information. In the meantime, also think about this. If you are nearing retirement, you probably have a good idea of how much money you have saved for retirement. But do you know you're going to have that kind of money when you actually do retire? Many investors don't invest and do the research on taxes in retirement. Taxes can wipe out a fourth of your retirement savings. See, Beacon Capital Management knows about this kind of stuff. They know how to actually protect you from this kind of stuff. So if you've saved at least $250,000 for retirement, call Beacon now to schedule your free tax reduction analysis, 615-488-9303. That's 615-488-9303. Learn more at beaconcm.com.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Still monitoring storms right now. Currently 66 degrees in Nashville. Severe thunderstorm warning in effect in Lincoln County until 6:15 tonight. With that, you can see penny-size hail and wind gusts up to 60 miles an hour. Another severe thunderstorm warning for southeastern DeKalb County, northwestern Van Buren, northeastern Warren, and southwestern White County. That thunderstorm warning will last until 6:30, and the tornado watch continues to move to the east, but still taking over a large portion of Middle Tennessee, and that's in effect until 7 o'clock, another hour. A tornado touched down to the ground briefly in Etheridge earlier, about an hour and a half ago. It caused some structural damage, the extent yet not known. And again, tornado watch in effect until 7 o'clock. Some severe thunderstorm warnings, one in Lincoln County until 6:15, and then one lasting until 6:30 in DeKalb, Van Buren, Warren, and White County. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away. President Biden today talking about the U.S. response to recent aerial objects detected in U.S. airspace. Karen Travers.
President Biden said the U.S. does not yet know exactly what the three objects are that the military shot down over 3 days last week.
Nothing right now suggests they were related to China's spy balloon program or that they were surveillance vehicles from any other country.
The president said the intelligence community's current assessment is that the three objects were likely balloons
tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
When it comes to the Chinese spy balloon, the president says he wants to speak with President Xi to, quote, get to the bottom of this. In Nashville, 4 students at Nashville School of Arts were taken to a hospital this morning. They were reportedly not feeling well. One of these instances involved 3 of the students who allegedly may have been vaping. Another was a possible call about a reported overdose. That's alleged as well. All 4 students were awake and alert at the time they were transported to the hospital. In Ohio, the head of the EPA paid a visit to a community there that's dealing with the aftermath of a train derailment. Dario Albinger brings us some details.
A promise to worried residents of East Palestine, Ohio, nearly 2 weeks after a train derailed, spilling toxic chemicals.
As President Biden told Governor DeWine, anything the state needs, we will be here to help.
EPA Administrator Michael Regan toured the community Thursday.
We are absolutely going to hold Norfolk Southern accountable, and I can promise you that.
Regan says he understands why people would question the information they're getting, but he urged residents to trust the EPA's testing.
And back to monitoring the weather here, looking at Channel 4, there's flooding in Henry County being reported. Looks like yards have been taken over by showers and rain, all water there around some businesses as well. And then in Hamilton County, it's being reported right now that a house fire was caused by a lightning strike. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everyone. It is 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson. So glad that you are with us for the last hour here of the Thursday edition of The Drive. We love having you along for the ride. We'll get you home safely. It looks like a lot of the weather has now moved out of the Nashville area. It's moved well to the east of us, and therefore I don't think we're going to have too much more to worry about in our listening area. I mean, if you're east of us, well east of us, you may run into some more problems, but it looks like we're through the worst of it for the night. It was pretty exciting there for a while, having some tornadoes on the ground and some very severe thunderstorms in the area. But again, looks like we dodged a bullet here for the most part. I think the people in Lawrenceburg and Etheridge might disagree with us because they had it pretty bad there for a little while.
Did have some damage. And I hear Dan Thomas tell us in the forecast that we're going to have some snow flurries possible overnight.
Oh, my gosh.
There's from tornado to snow?
I mean,
it's crazy.
It is. That's crazy stuff is what that is. Well, we're so glad that you're with us tonight. Hope that you're getting home safely. Let me bring you some news and information to make the drive home a little more, you'll learn something. You can be in the car and you can be driving and you can learn all at the same time. That's the goal of this show each day. Let's go to the Ohio train derailment. There was apparently another derailment today, I understand, near the Detroit area. Again, I want to just point out that's not surprising, given the fact that I looked this up to make sure that I was right about this. There are, on average, about 4 train derailments in America, 4.5 train derailments in America each day, 1,702 on an annual basis on average. So, I mean, we have train derailments all the time. Not many of them are like the one in Ohio, that's for sure, to be absolutely sure. And you know what? It seems like I will say that I think the news media did not understand how bad it was. It certainly wasn't getting much coverage. Everybody was focused on the balloons, which we now know weren't all that in a bag of chips. We had the one balloon that was of concern. The others, apparently, not that much. Not anything to be real concerned about, but all the focus was on that. And there wasn't some of the coverage that should have been there in the early going of the Ohio train derailment. But now the question is, where is the government? Where is FEMA? Where is Mayor Pete? Where is anybody who is there to help them from the federal government? This, in many ways, is now becoming what you would have to say like a Katrina situation for the Democrats. Governor, I'm sorry, his name has escaped me. The governor of Ohio has said that he has not been hasn't been told by FEMA that they will do anything for him.
Mike DeWine.
Mike DeWine. Sorry, it just blanked on it. Mike DeWine, former senator from Ohio, now the governor, said that FEMA told him, no, you don't qualify for any special funding as yet. Well, that's sort of an important, if you don't qualify for FEMA funding after this disaster, then what good is FEMA funding? I mean, this train derailed in this little town. Imagine what this town is going through. This little town may never be the same as a result of this. Would you want to live in this town where they had spilled all of these chemicals, where the fish are dying and the frogs are dying, and there's a coat of who knows what kind of ash over everything that you own? I think the little town will really suffer economically as a result of this. I'm not sure it will ever be the same, and I'm not sure people could be blamed for actually picking up and moving. Say, I'm not going to, and you can't get FEMA to come in and give you a hand? Last night there was a town hall meeting, and the mayor tried to explain to people a couple of things, but he was asked immediately, almost off the bat, I hope you can hear this, where is Pete Buttigieg, was the question. He said, I don't know where he is. Your guess is as good as my guess. And then he went on to say, yesterday was the first time I've even heard from the White House. He's the mayor of this town. He's talking to Mike DeWine. He's talking to the other, people in the area. He's not talking to the mayor. Seems like, the mayor, maybe Mayor Pete should call the mayor. I mean, mayor to mayor, if nothing else. because he ain't much of a Secretary of Transportation. I mean, I can tell you that for sure. He hasn't shown up. What he has done is he's put out a piece of paper that says, it's all Trump's fault. I'm not making this up. Pete Buttigieg blames Trump for Ohio train derailment. FoxNews.com. He shifted part of the blame for the recent derailment of train carrying toxic chemicals in Ohio to the Trump administration for reversing a little-known safety rule. There's no evidence at all that this safety rule had any impact at all on what happened there. He's just trying to do anything to shift blame because people are saying, where's Mayor Pete? Well, why is he not there? Why is he not there walking the streets? Why is he not there? Is he afraid to go? Well, if you're afraid to go, imagine how the people who are living there feel. That's unbelievable. This guy is so weak as Secretary of Transportation. He's way in over his head. Doesn't have a clue. As Marco Rubio pointed out today in an interview, he never seems to understand the grave nature of the things that happen that he should be responding to.
And I don't know what the guy needs to do to get fired because he's been asleep at the switch, no pun intended, his entire time in office. Whether it's meltdowns at the FAA, whether it's what happened with Southwest Airlines, now this derailment of toxic chemicals. But his job is to make sure that not only is our system of transportation in this country reliable, but that it is safe.
Oh, he's got time to talk about racia quotas on the job sites of construction projects. He's got time to yuck it up about balloons when he goes and gives speeches. But, when you actually have a disaster where the Secretary of Transportation should be showing up, nowhere to be found. The EPA director has finally made his way. Well, this Biden administration, how difficult it is. You have a train derailment. You have what is an ecological disaster. There's all kinds of chemicals that are killing the fish, and the air is unbreathable, and you've got that kind of nature of a disaster, and you can't bother to send a few people? The director of the EPA has now made his way down to Ohio. Ohio's Senator J.D. Vance says, you know what? We should make him drink the water if he thinks it's safe. Because they keep saying, the air's fine. The air's fine. The water's just fine. Don't worry. Nothing to worry about here. That's your EPA speaking. Here's what J.D. Vance said.
Would you like the EPA administrator to drink the tap water?
It reminds me of that scene in Erin Brockovich where she puts the water in front of them and says, if you think it's clean, we brought this water from, the community that was affected. Look, I think that if the EPA administrator wants to stand here and tell people that the tap water is safe, by all means, they should be willing to drink it.
Yeah, they should be willing to drink it. This town hall meeting, though, it was raucous. And you can't help but understand why. You've got these people who have been run out of their homes. They don't know whether or not they're going to be able to go back into their homes. They may have lost their livelihoods. They may have lost so many things. Very concerned about whether or not it's safe to go there because they see animals dying everywhere. They got to wonder, am I going to be next if I hang around here? And they were furious, and they were angry, and understandably so. And apparently, the Norfolk Southern people offered to give everybody a $1,000 check right off the bat. They were told everybody in this zip code's going to get $1,000 from Norfolk Southern. And everybody was the ultimate reaction was, are you kidding me? No, I'm not taking that $1,000 check. They're trying to get us to settle for $1,000. No, apparently it's not that, but that's what, I can understand why you would think, I'm not taking that check. You cash that check, you're agreeing that, you're not going to sue them. Oh, there's going to be some lawsuits against Norfolk Southern. But these poor people, my heart just goes out to them, and I understand, how difficult this is for them. I really get that they really don't have many options for them. Some of them are having problems, headaches. Some of them are having skin rashes from the chemicals. But it's okay to go back because the air and the water is just fine, according to the EPA. The problem is we get to the point now where we don't believe our government when they tell us stuff like that. We are right to be quite cautious and disbelieving of the things that our government tells us, because so many times we now have found the things that they try to tell us are simply not true. So there's that. And by the way, here's the details on the incident near Detroit. Not as bad. It looks like it's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 train cars. Only one was carrying hazardous material, and that one is not showing any signs of any leakage. By the way, they had to explain to everybody, what happened, because they had that one container that was really, really dangerous, and it was getting superheated by the fire, and they kept watching it and watching it, and at some point, this thing's going to reach critical mass. It's going to get so hot that it's just going to go off like a bomb, and it could really damage an area 1 mile to 2 wide around the center where this one tanker car was. And so the decision was made, rather than let that happen, maybe we need to try to control it and let it burn off in a more controlled way. And, of course, what they're doing is they're spewing a very volatile chemical into the community. Well, it's a tough call. What do you do in a situation like that? I mean, let it explode, and who knows what happens? Could be catastrophic. Or do you try to, control the explosion in a way where it burns off? They said they had no good options. Well, the good option would be having things in place that would have prevented the train derailment in the very beginning anyway. That would be helpful. It'd be good to know why it is in this country we have 1,702 derailments every year. Maybe we should start with some of that, to find out what's going on with our infrastructure and our train tracks and all of why do we have so many? I think that would be the place to start. It would also be helpful if Mayor Pete would show up to answer some of these questions. But nope, I don't think that's going to happen. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Let me tell you about Johnny Fleeman's Legend Steakhouse. If you're driving home tonight and you're thinking, man, I'd love a good steak, well, why don't you just go to your nearest Legend Steakhouse? Go to legendsteakhouse.com for details on all their different locations. But they want you to also think about them for lunch, and I'm telling you, they got a great thing going, a meat and two situation. You get, meats like, fried pork chops, smoky mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy. Oh, that's good stuff right there. And when it comes to the sides, well, there are 14 vegetables and casseroles to choose from. Broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes, potato casserole. Oh, that's good. How about black-eyed peas, to name just a few? It's like home cooking. That's exactly what it is. Good food at a fair price. You see, these are recipes that came from Johnny's mom. He borrowed her recipe book some 30 years ago, and he just never really gave it back. Legend Steakhouse, multiple locations across Middle Tennessee. Go to legendsteakhouse.com for locations and for online menu ordering. You're going to love your next visit to the Legend Steakhouse.
Still keeping track of this storm cycle as it heads to the eastern portion of Tennessee, and some money news. That and more 30 minutes after the hour of 6 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
25 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. Brian Wilson in the chair on the air. Let's get you home so you can have a good dinner. And apparently it was a little dicey for some people getting home tonight. A lot of heavy rain on the highways. We hope that you made it safely. We're going to give you some more news, and hopefully you'll get home in a few minutes. All right, here we go. You know, John Fetterman was somebody that everybody looked at very closely during the midterm elections. He was running up against Dr. Oz, and there were real serious concerns about the man's health and his ability to function as a good senator, given the fact that he apparently, what was the thing we heard the other day? That apparently when John Fetterman hears people talk, it sounds a lot like the teacher in Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah. It was that kind of thing. And so we now know that apparently he has to walk around with an iPad at all times that prints out what people around him are saying so he can respond. And then the other day, there was something that happened. He was at a Democrat retreat, and he got lightheaded, and they rushed him to the hospital thinking, oh, Mo, he's having another stroke. He's having another one of these incidents that like he had before. And they said, no, that wasn't it, and they couldn't figure out what it was, but they sent him back after a couple of days. They sent him back. Now comes this news. Senator John Fetterman, Democrat of Pennsylvania, has checked into a hospital on Wednesday night to be treated for clinical depression. Last night, Senator Fetterman checked himself into the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center to receive treatment for clinical depression. While John has experienced depression off and on throughout his life, it only became severe in recent weeks, says Adam Gentleson, Fetterman's chief of staff, in a statement. Well, when did we hear, did he ever reveal that he sometimes battled issues of depression? Was that something that was brought up during the campaign? Isn't that something that, we should have known about? On Monday, he was evaluated by Dr. Brian Monahan. He was the attending physician of the United States Congress. Recommended inpatient care at Walter Reed. John agreed, and he's receiving treatment on a voluntary basis. He's getting the care he needs and soon will be back to himself, such as he is. Remember, it wasn't but about a week ago that he was in the hospital for feeling lightheaded. It was a real legitimate question. Was this guy up to the task? And it's seeming increasingly clear in recent days that maybe he's not up to the task. The people of Pennsylvania deserve something better, don't you think? Why was this whole thing about depression kept from us during the campaign? Why weren't people? No, that would have been sort of a deciding factor for some people. Oh, you have these medical issues and you have occasional bouts of depression? Have you been treated? Wasn't that something that the doctors should have revealed? Of course they're not. They're going to hide that stuff from you. Listen, here's another one of the stories about it. Pennsylvania Democrat Senator John Fetterman, still recovering from a stroke, has checked himself into Walter Reed Military Hospital to seek treatment for clinical depression. He suffered with the aftereffects of a stroke he suffered last May, checked himself in Wednesday night. This according to Associated Press. And they go on to give the quote. Fetterman, 53, in his first weeks as a U.S. Senator after winning the seat held now by retired Republican Pat Toomey in a hard-fought contest against the GOP nominee Dr. Mehmet Oz. Last week, Fetterman stayed 2 days in George Washington University, checking himself in after he became lightheaded. Fetterman's office has said the test found no evidence of a new stroke or that he had a seizure. Well, the stroke nearly killed him. Honestly, maybe the better thing to do here was to say, I'm just not up to the task. I had a stroke. I need to focus on my health. Instead, they push him. Now he's in a situation where he's working hard as a United States Senator. And by the way, I know you don't think that senators work hard, but they do put in a lot of hours. It's a grinding job. It really is. And so here he is. He's had to go to the hospital because he got lightheaded. Did he have a seizure? Did he have a stroke? No, we don't know what it was, but he was lightheaded. Okay, that's a problem. And now clinical depression. Well, look, I mean, depression is a serious thing. I've never actually been through it, but I've known people who have battled with it from time to time, to be taken seriously, to be treated. He did the right thing. Now, what would be the right thing for him to do for the people of Pennsylvania? I think the right thing for him to do is to step down. He is not fit to be a senator for the people of Pennsylvania. But, you know, the people of Pennsylvania have spoken. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 65 degrees and still tracking all of these weather cycles right now in Tennessee. Tornado watch still in effect for the next 30 minutes. Now a lot more eastern portion of Tennessee, no longer in effect in Rutherford or Davidson County. As the storm heads east, there are severe thunderstorm warnings in Cumberland, White, and Putnam County until 6:45, and that could bring 60-mile-an-hour winds. Had a tornado touchdown earlier here around 4 o'clock or so in Etheridge and Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. Did a little bit of damage to some roofs and some businesses. We'll bring you more on that as we hear it on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away. President Biden breaking nearly 2 weeks of silence on that Chinese spy balloon and other objects the U.S. shot down with an address to the nation. Andy Field brings us some details.
The president said he ordered the Chinese spy balloon shot down when it was safe, and that the military said that wasn't until it reached the Atlantic Ocean. As for the other three objects, he says the military thinks they
were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation, or research institutions.
The president says he's restricting 6 companies that do business with the Chinese army and plans to talk with President Xi.
And over to the money news, here's Derry Albinger.
Stocks fell on new worries that inflation is still very much a concern for the economy. The Dow plunged 431 points, the Nasdaq gave up 215, and the S&P fell 57. Usually wholesale and consumer prices move in tandem. In other words, when one is up or down, the other usually is too. Well, that wasn't the case with the latest inflation report this week. The producer price index rose 0.7% from December to January, driven by a 5% surge in energy prices. That compared to a 0.2% drop from November to December. It's also counter to the drop in the consumer price index for the same time period. Fewer workers applied for unemployment benefits last week than expected, a sign that layoffs remain low. It's good news for workers, but the Fed worries that employers forced to offer competitive pay could add upward pressure on inflation, and that could mean more rate increases.
Got some more weather news there in Lawrence County, hearing from WSMV on the damage done there. Front side of a barn knocked down by some tornado debris, traveled for miles. No injuries. A propane tank was knocked down and leaking. Still a large police presence there in Lawrenceburg County, but again, no injuries from that brief touchdown of the tornado. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. Apparently a tornado has been detected by radar down near Lynchburg, south of Tullahoma, Still Springs, Detchard, that area. So be aware. And they're picking up, they got a cloud there that's dropping about 3.5 inches of rain an hour. That's a lot of rain.
Wow. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so be aware. That's not in our immediate area, but still, you may be listening if headed that way. Lynchburg, Tullahoma, Estelle Springs, be aware right now. A report of tornado. This is, I think, radar indicated.
Yep.
Okay, that's what we have. I want to bring you some latest information about, this story. Don Lemon, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of words that you could use to describe Don Lemon, but The one that starts with A comes to my mind because, I mean, he's really, well, I can say he's an ass. He really is an ass. I mean, he's been getting in all kinds of trouble since he went to this morning show. And this morning, he stepped in it in a huge way. It was over this story that Nikki Haley says, I'm running, and we need younger people who are running. And if you're over 75, I think you ought to take a cognitive test before you run. It's part of her campaign. And so they reported on that. And then they turned to Don Lemon to get his vaunted opinion. And Don Lemon is an idiot.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime.
What did he just say? He says, if you're a politician not in your prime, you shouldn't, maybe you shouldn't run. But Nikki Haley needs to be careful because she's not in her prime. Ooh, I mean, that's one of those things where you go, let's back that up and try that again, because, I mean, I can't believe you just said that.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. So,
well, and to their credit, Don Lemon CNN anchors, they sort of took him up on it.
When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
You need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home.
Here's the thing, Don. When you have stepped in it big time, and you are in a hole, and people are coming at you, and there's a great piece of sage advice. When in a hole, stop digging the hole. But he doesn't. He doubles down on it. He just keeps going. It's just unbelievable.
Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime? It says 20s, 30s, and 40s. And I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime, and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to
Google,
Google or whatever it is.
Oh Lord. Well, Nikki Haley didn't like it. She tore into Don Lemon, CNN's Don Lemon. It's always the liberals who are the most sexist, Haley said, who was also a fundraising email blasting Lemon. Haley is 51, but she says this whole, and then when she says of Lemon, what an idiot you are. He said this morning that Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. A woman's considered in their prime in 20s, 30s. He's older than she is.
Yeah, he's 56.
56 years old. 56 years old. Remarkably, I would say, preserved for a man. Must have a really great skincare regimen or something going on.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he.
I mean, he must put that little cream under his eyes every night, because he doesn't look 56. Very manicured individual who apparently doesn't know anything about women whatsoever. Unbelievable. So you have that. He did actually finally late this afternoon put out an apology. Well, I don't know if you can call it an apology. I don't know. When I have to say I'm sorry, I usually start it out with the words, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. Well, that's not what you do if you're Don Lemon. The reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it. Oh, he's not sorry. He has offered his regrets. A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. I have countless women in my life who prove that every day. Janice Dean over at Fox said, "Did you Google this response?" Did ChatGPT write that for you? Write somebody.
Ooh.
Why aren't you apologizing to Nikki Haley? There's a great question. Arthur Schwartz had a better question. Are you still on TV? Yeah, well, I don't know how much longer. This isn't an apology. How about directing this to the woman you insulted? I love that. One woman said, Don, you weren't even drunk for this one. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar actually came to his rescue.
Oh, boy.
Don, we know your heart was in the right place. No, I don't think so. But I'm just filing through some of these. Don, what does define a woman? That's a great question. Clearly a man's primes are from 75 to 90, wrote someone. Thank you for taking the high road and apologizing. This is not an apology whatsoever. Props to Poppy Harlow, who is the CNN co-anchor, for pushing back. And as a former CNN producer in my 50s, it's hard to imagine a path forward for Don Lemon on CNN this morning with two women he clearly does not respect. Ooh. Clearly, said Ben, you have issues with women. Inartful, irrelevant, and regretful, but can't you just say, I'm sorry? That's the thing. I mean, look, when you are on radio or if you're on TV and you are out there and you are being asked to walk up to the line and offer opinion on this, that, or the other, and you speak maybe, I don't know, over the course of a year, 1 million words. I don't think that's beyond the pale. I think probably over the course of a year, I mean, think about it. I'm on the air 4 hours a day. It really is largely just me. I don't have a lot of guests, so I'm speaking largely when you take, 4 hours a day. And take out all the commercial breaks, 3 hours a day. And in the course of that, you're going to say something stupid. It's just, nobody is so perfect that they can get through that kind of stuff where you're ad-libbing, trying to be edgy, trying to be, entertaining. Sooner or later, you got to know where that line is, but sooner or later, you're going to make a mistake and you're going to step over that line. You got to know where the line is. You got to stay on the right side. Every once in a while, I like to go and just put my toe across a little bit, but not too much.
Well, and if you do step over that line, you also got to know when to shut it down.
That's right. And here is the thing. You don't keep digging the hole when you've done something stupid. When you've done something boneheaded, be man enough. Well, it's a little difficult for Don, I'm sure, but be man enough to just, look at people in the eye and say, you know what? I screwed up. I'm so sorry. I apologize unreservedly. I mean, that's the way. What do they tell you? You learn this in kindergarten. If you make a mistake, you own it, and you say sincerely, and with honestly believing it, I have messed up, and I am so very sorry. I find myself doing this to Cabana Wife at least once a week.
You've gotten good at it, have you?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, if any married man knows, yeah. I have stepped in it. I have really stepped in it. I need to apologize. And then I repeat over and over and over and over, I love you so much. I love you so much. Have I told you today how much I love you? I love you. I'm so sorry, and I love you.
And then they just get aggravated because you keep doing that, and then they forget about what they were mad at in the first place. So
no, that's all right. If you can get them to change, and if you just get them to smile, it gets better real quick.
That's true.
Don Lemon is an idiot, and I don't know how he holds up. I don't know how he survives. This is like the third disastrous thing that has happened to Don Lemon in about a week and a half. This guy is melting down. And any person who has any experience with dating of women or being married to a woman or having a relationship and a friendship with knows exactly that you can't say something like this. But I guess he doesn't have those experiences. I guess. 49 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Well, that concludes today's edition of The Drive. Mark Levin is coming up here in just a short while, and he'll carry on for several hours, as he often does. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do here. I'm going to take a day off tomorrow, and then Monday is President's Day, so I'll be back with you on next Tuesday. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do, and thank you for again, I want to just say as I part this week, thank you so much for all of the lovely birthday greetings that I got. Literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you reached out to say, happy birthday, and that you showed some appreciation for what I do each day. Thank you for that. It meant more than you can possibly imagine, and I am so glad to be your friend and radio buddy. Have a great couple of days. We'll see you back here on Tuesday.